Hey, fam. I see you. Don't even think about it. So that's my little Belgian Malinois. Holding. Always looking to get into something. No, he's not supposed to come on my carpet. So he keeps eyeballing me. All right, if you guys are tuning in for the first time to my live, welcome. In a couple minutes, we're gonna have a couple hundred people here. If you're returning to the live, I appreciate you. It's your first time, welcome. I just do these like watch session pretty much, and I give my opinion. Some people like it, some people don't. But for those who don't like it, it's okay. Conversations welcome. For those of you who do, you're all still welcome to the channel. Like I like to do before we start each live, I like to shout out to everyone who's in the live with me. I see 6 people in the live right now. In a little bit, it's gonna double and triple and quadruple that. I thank you guys for sharing my live with me, guys. I appreciate you guys. Where are you guys hailing from? I'm here in Florida, beautiful, sunny, warm Florida. How are you guys doing? Where are you guys watching from? Let me where you guys watching from. The UK, Greg, appreciate you joining. Shout out to you, the UK, man. I have family that lives in the UK, in England. I'm Jamaican, so there's a lot of Jamaicans in the United Kingdom. I mean, Jamaicans are everywhere. I mean, I have family in the UK, in Canada, obviously in Jamaica, New York, California. You name it, Jamaicans are everywhere. I don't know what it is about Jamaicans, but they love to go to some cold ass places, man. Me, I love Florida. You know what I mean? So I stay in Florida. Oh, open source agriculture. You were saying, can a black gay man support Trump? I'm assuming you're referring to me. I am a black man, but I am not gay, my friend. I have nothing wrong with anybody who is gay, but I'm not gay. And I do support Trump. You are absolutely correct. Yes, I like spaghetti bolognese. Naomi, welcome to the live. Where you guys shouting from? Where you guys shouting from, fam? Where you guys watching the live from? Get in the chats. Tell me where you guys watching the live from. Welcome to the live. If you guys it's your first time here, welcome to the live. If you've been here before, you know what the deal is. I give a little rant before we get the video started. Then we get started. Guten Tag from Germany, Big Ben. Appreciate you, Donnie. Welcome to the live. Big Ben, where you got Big Ben in Big Ben, he's shouting out of Germany. I love my German people. I know a few Germans here. I ran track. I've been to track meets in Germany. I ran track and field for about 7 years professionally. Uni Soviet, welcome. Hello, hello. Welcome to the live. I appreciate every single one of you guys, man. If you guys have not checked out my channel before, thank you guys for dropping by. If you guys are coming back, you guys know the deal. I give my rant, then we watch some video, then I give my closing arguments, and that's pretty much it. So pretty much we see where we already know what's going on in Iraq, between Israel and Iraq right now. For anybody who lives under a rock, I'm crazy if I support Trump. Is that Miss Washington? That's what you say? I'm crazy if I support Trump? Why is that? I should be ashamed of myself? Huh? Also, tell me how I should be ashamed of myself. Because, so Lorna Washington is saying I should be ashamed of myself if I voted for Donald Trump. So the reasons why I voted, right? was because I wanted a closed border. I don't want a woman slash man who doesn't know if he wants to be a man to be our to be head of our secure national security. I didn't want grown ass men competing with not so grown women in terms of strength wise. I didn't want a 10, 11, 12-year old to be told that they can make decisions about their gender at that age. Because when I was at that age, you know what I mean? I kind of thought I could fly. I thought I was going to find an E-Man sword underneath my bed because I grew up watching E-Man. You know what I mean? And apparently there's no E-Man sword. So at that age, I really don't want to tell any kids that, you know what I mean? They're a man. If just because they feel like a boy and they're a girl, that means they are a boy. Maybe it's a phase that they go through. There's a lot of women and men that go through phases throughout their lives. I didn't want a president that was manipulated by everybody that we couldn't see. I didn't want a cackling jackass like Kamala Harris to just flood the media with a woke movement. I didn't want my neighborhoods to be filled with criminals from other countries that didn't get vetted properly. I wanted a man's man to be the leader of the free world and not a cackling jackass like Kamala Harris who can't even run her own state. Are you going to be the president of a whole country if the state of California is a shitty state? And we all know California is a shitty state. Not in terms of its beauty, but how it's ran. How are you going to have the senator or, you know, what's his name? I can't remember this idiot. Gavin Newsom and the mayor, they don't even show up and show out for the people during the fires. You know what I mean? But they're here showing up and showing out for rioters demolishing their state, and then get on their horn and say, hey, the president is this and that. Instead of talking about a president, get your ass in the middle of it and say, hey, I support you immigrants, but y'all need to get off the streets. We need to back up our police and stop letting it. He came out crying about how, you know, Trump brought in, you know, the military and the National Guards to get rid of these people. He was literally crying on TV. But yet still, when the cartel and all the people coming from other countries are flooding our countries and his streets, because there's some streets in California where all you see is people overdosing. You don't see him come on the TV crying about those people. You don't come on TV crying about the military people who have mental health disorder and they need help. That is why I voted. I voted for someone who's going to put this country first. In the 4 years of Joe Biden's presidency or Kamala Harris run for the presidency, when did they ever put America first? When did they ever do it? They'll tell you, oh, they're going to tax your butt off in whichever state you live, right? And then tell you to girt your waist and pay the taxes and be an American, and you know you're here for the country. The country doesn't serve you; you serve the country. But yet still, they will take our hard-earned tax dollars every few months. Joe Biden was taking $8 billion and shipping it off to Ukraine, and we know not all of that $8 billion goes to Ukraine. Probably a fraction. Because the generals came, when President Trump became president, the generals came and said, all that money that they say they were going to send, we only received a fraction. So where did the rest go? They put aside money for parades like what they're doing in California now from the previous administration. And they thought they were going to go access those money to go do the No Kings like march throughout the country. What are you talking about? This is not about no kings. This is about destruction of the United States. That's what their plan is. The Democrats are sore losers. We all know that they're sore losers. Even when they accuse President Trump of inciting an insurrection, you know, at a federal building, they prove it was not true. He proved that he said, hey, whatever, this old ass woman that's been in Congress since the beginning of Congress. He said, yo, send troops there to help curtail what's going on in the federal building. And she said, nah, I'm good. We're going to let it burn because we want you to look bad. The Democratic Party will let this country burn just to say, I said so, or I told you so. I'm sorry, okay? They will let this country burn just to say, I told you he wasn't a good president. Look what he did. This is how the Democratic Party are. This is how the Democratic representative are. They go and they sit in Congress for years and years and years. They cry. They use the race, the race topic constantly to divide the country. It's black, it's white, it's brown. Then they divide and divide. And then they get your vote. Then they go in Congress and do nothing with your vote. When was the last time during the Barack Obama's presidency or Joe Biden / Kamala Harris presidency that the government did anything for you? I remember during Barack Obama's presidency, I was paying almost $5 for gas in Florida. I remember it. I remember during Barack Obama presidency when I couldn't afford to buy insurance. He said, hey, not only you can't get insurance, if you don't go get it anyways, when tax time come, I'm going to take the money. I'm going to take $600 out of your taxes. And if you're married, it's $1,200. Tell me that I'm lying. Tell me Barack Obama didn't do that. Tell me that I'm faking that news. Tell me that Barack Obama didn't deport over 2 million people back to their country during his presidency. Please tell me where I'm lying. And I see whoever's in the comments say I'm lying. Please go fact check it, because that's how I know you're a Democrat. You don't do facts check. You guys just talk outside of your ass, and you guys are so good at it. You guys are like The View. You guys get on TV and just talk about sound bites and then run with it. And then when people come and check you guys and facts check you and give you facts, you guys pause and then change the subject and go to commercial. That would be, what's your name? Bomb Cherry, that's you right there. You're like one of the people on The View. I'm not lying. Everything President Trump said could be fact checked. They didn't want to. They rather just say sound bites all day long. Oh, he's a racist. He's a racist. He's a racist. How is he a racist? The funny thing is, one of the first black men that ran for presidency in this country, okay, Jesse Jackson, he was actually funded by President Trump when he was just a millionaire, playboy, philanthropist, Batman. He literally was funded by Trump. And there's more and more and more and more stories of Trump in the black community that they never spoke about. You can find more racial issues that Joe Biden was involved in that were facts. Then you can find anything racially that President Trump is involved in. Please don't just take my word. Go fact check it while you're on the live, and then call me a liar and tell me where I'm wrong. Barack Obama, I can't stand that idiot. President Trump has been in the black community for so many years. That's why it's so funny when people who know him, right, and know of him, when you hear that he's a racist, you just laugh like, what are these people talking about? This man was great friends with Oprah Winfrey. He said it many times. I was their bosom buddies for years until I switched parties. I bet you if he was still a Democrat and still pushing the same crappy narrative and so subjugating the people and putting other countries first and putting everybody else first, he'd be well loved. But because he's going against the grain and saying, listen, I am for the people. I want to put my country first. I want to put my people first. I want us to win first. And I don't understand how Americans, just like Bomb Cherry here, can live in the United States, enjoy the freedom she enjoys here, right? Enjoy the freedom to say whatever you want to say, right? And somebody who actually fights for that who wants to create a great defense for our country. The example, the Golden Dome, who wants this country to win. How can you come out and say, hey, I hate this guy? Listen, even if I don't like Barack Obama, if he does something that benefits the country, I am objective enough to say, hey, that was a good thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to be so bitter against someone and say, I hate him, he's a racist, he's a sexist, I don't like anything he does. That is just insanity to me. I just don't get how you people don't love your country. Maybe you have to come from a country. I'm from Jamaica. I know what government who really don't like you and really go out of their way to make life hard for you. I know what that feels like. So when I come here and I hear a president say, hey, I want to put the people who are paying taxes first. Those who are the people I want to take care of first. Everybody else comes second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and whatever comes after. Let me ask you a question, and you can please tell me in the comments. If you have kids and you have the last bit of food in your house, when your kids bring 10 kids over to play, are you going to feed the 10 kids and let your kids go hungry? Absolutely not. So how is it when the president says, hey, these countries have taxed us to hell? Listen, none of you guys might have been to Dubai. None of you guys have probably been to a lot of European countries. I ran track for a living, and I've traveled, and I've seen what these countries look like. Those countries take money, they invest in all these countries you guys want to go on vacation, right? Dubai, England, and all these exotic places. They take money, they build their infrastructure, so you have to pay an arm and a leg to go there. Why is it that you have a problem when our president, I heard President Trump said something one time, and he said, hey, when I went to a certain country and I got off the plane, it was like I walked out into the Garden of Eden. Everything looked so beautiful. And then he compared it to what? New York City. Have any of you ever traveled to New York City and walked through the airport? It's a shit sty. Not just New York City, but a lot of American cities. How am I? Oh, I'm not American? Cherry, please shut up if you know what I mean. Listen, I'm not one to tell people to be quiet. I love the dialogue, but if you don't know what you're talking about, please be quiet. First of all, ma'am, I have a master's in criminal justice, political science, and history, right? And I'm getting a third degree right now as we speak. I know what I'm talking about, ma'am. If you don't know what you're talking about, please shut the hell up, okay? If you're going to say anything about me, saying I'm not Jamaican, please prove that I'm not American. I said I was born in Jamaica, but yes, I am an American citizen. And to tell you what, Miss Cherry, I am more of an American citizen than you are because I love this country. And like I said before, just in case you didn't hear me clearly, you'd have to be born in another country and be subjugated to their shit to understand how lucky you guys are. As I said in my yesterday's live, if you think that in my country, in Jamaica, in Venezuela, in Russia, in Italy, if you think that you can go protesting and destroy some buildings and spit on a cop, I promise you, you will be in a pine box. You can never go to Jamaica and spit on a police officer. You can never go to any Caribbean island and spit on a police officer or throw a Molotov at them or throw a brick at them, much less break their car. You're dead on the spot. I promise you, you are. But here in this country, we have so much freedom, right? Where we can say whatever we want to do, which is a great thing. I love the fact that I love that. My point is, you have freedom to the point where the country that gives you that freedom, you're willing to destroy that country. You're willing to burn that flag. You're willing to cuss that president. But yet still, when it's all said and done, you can go into your house, enjoy the freedom of the same security that the same country gives you. You know what I mean? And I just don't understand how you guys don't don't want to see a president secure his border. You know when it would be apparent? If one day we wake up and we hear that there's ton load of bombs going off across the country and they were set off by people who can't. That's what would have to happen for you, for your eyes to be open up to say, hey, Brad, you want me to show you my paper? I don't have to show you my paper. The fact that I'm still here doing this live means I'm not in any fear of getting ported. My papers are secured, Brad. Don't worry yourself. Don't worry yourself, my guy. My papers are good. Like I said, I'm more of a patriot than half the people that are watching this video right now. And you can't say you love America if you are for foreigners waving their flags, the Palestinian flag, the Mexican flag. And I have nothing against anybody, any of those people. But you can't wave those flags, burn the American flag, assault American citizens and businesses that they work so hard to build, assault police officers, assault ATF agent, assault ICE agents, and say you're a true American. You are a traitor. Plain and simple. I don't care how you put it. Okay? I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican. And another thing I can't stand with some Democrats, yo, I remember when President Trump was running and Kamala Harris even jumped on his bandwagon. Oh, no tax on tips, no tax on tips. And she jumped up, no tax on tips, no tax on tips. But yet still, when they pushed that bill in Congress, not one single Democrat voted on it. Do you know how many people are put through college by working as servers, as cooks, as the food industry workers? Do you know how much money, how much billions of dollars those people can save? But you know how I know? When I was in college, I served. So I know that when I get my little tip and I have to tip out and I'm like, man, I made $150 today and I tip out, I'm really only making $100 for the day. You're taking so much money from me when I couldn't even afford it. And a president that comes in and say, you know what, no tax on tips. Whether we are not on the same page, Democrats or Republican, this should be one deal that we can agree on. No, they absolutely don't. And again, please go and fact check me. Again, everything that I say, guys, please go and fact check me. You don't have to listen to anything I say. I'm not Fox or I'm not CNN where they just pull shit out their ass and they don't really mean it. You know, you can go and fact check all these things. First of all, if you watch the congressional hearings all the time, which I do, that's what I do when I'm bored, when I'm studying, I let that stuff play so I listen. You know what I mean? It's literally there. They're asking people, hey, how did you get this position? Oh, no, I was appointed by Joe Biden even though I have no credential. All those accidents, those plane crash accidents that happened. I remember the guy that was the head of the FAA. He was a black guy. They interviewed him. They say to him, hey, what qualifications do you have? Are you ex-military? Did you fly a plane in the military? Are you in aviation? No. Then how did you get that position? Oh, I was appointed by Joe Biden. What? You have no experience in aviation, in flying a plane, in the military aircraft, in nothing. And yet so you get that position? How so? How so? This is the kind of presidency a lot of Democrats want. The ones who have no qualification, right, to come just attain a position just because they're either black or it feels good or it seems like you're on the bandwagon or you want to be politically correct or whatever the case might be. And I'm all for giving people the opportunity. I'm a black man myself. I experienced workism many times. Workism, I made that work up. This is where you go for a job and somebody else knows that person and you're more qualified than them and they get the job. I've experienced that already. I've experienced not getting a job to a Spanish guy because his father was the head of that department. I've experienced that, so I understand. But at the same time, come on. You know what I mean? I just don't understand that. But anyways, like I said, guys, I start my live, I get on a rant, and you might not like it. It's what it is. By the way, shout out to what's her name? Cherry Bomb. I have no beef with you, man. But don't call me out of my name, man. Are you gonna tell me about showing me my papers? Don't do that. Don't do that. I don't have to show you my papers. Listen, I get up every day. I sleep like a baby in my house. All right. I have a 4-bedroom house. I have 2 motorcycles. I have a car. I own all of that. No payments. All right. So I ain't got to worry about nothing. I wasn't born here, but I did the right thing. And I can make these lives because I know ain't nobody going to come kick down my door. I did it the right way. Bomb Cherry. Yeah, exactly. Go start a live. I don't really care what you want to do, but don't come in the live, call me out talking about, show me papers and I'm this and I'm that. I really don't care. You know what I mean? I love this country. I love the United States. You know what I mean? It's given me the freedom to get all the things I just mentioned. It's given a lot of you guys who aren't citizens the same freedom. And you should be so against these people that are coming into your country and destroying it. Because at the end of the day, it's your tax dollars that are going to pay for all of those buildings. And yeah, you might not understand it now. All those insurance, guess what? You see all them those buildings that they're destroying and all that stuff that they're destroying in California. Where do you think all insurance companies come from, people? Your car insurance, your homeowners insurance. Where do you think they're based from? When you destroy it, all those guys got to do is sit their penthouse and say, you know what? Raise the insurance rate. Just raise the insurance rate on this and that and this and that. And you have to pay it. And you sit here and cry. None of you guys will go to any of these insurance company, burn down the building. You guys won't lobby your state governor, your state senator for anything that's worth anything. But yet still you support people who come to destroy this country. I really don't understand it. And if anybody can explain it to me, please tell me. If it has something to do with ethics and morals and building the community and being better for each other and building up our country, nobody's going to riot. Nobody riots. Nobody burns down no building. Nobody attacks any cars. Nobody runs the highway red. Nobody is attacking any federal agents. Nobody attacked Kamala Harris or Joe Biden when hundreds of thousands of our American brothers and sisters were dying of fentanyl overdose. Facts check me too, because they said it all the time. They would say it all the time, but did nothing of it. They did nothing to curtail it, to stop it, to try to stop the cartel. Nothing. But then we get a president that comes in and says, hey, I want to save lives, American lives. But yet still you guys come out here and talk all this crazy smack about this guy is sexist. And I remember one time, this is how people hate this man. One time the thing came out when he was saying something about grabbing the girl by the, whatever. And they came out, oh, he said, grab her by the, and he said, man, listen, that's guy talk. All of us say it like that. And listen, I know a lot of you guys in the comments, if you guys know how women talk, if you guys truly know how women talk when you're not around and when they talk to each other, the reason why I know, I have a lot of females friends say, bro, we're worse than you guys. They will tell you they are worse than, if you hear some of the things, like I'm in school the other day and I'm not calling any names. And I was just, and I'm in a medical program right now. And we're doing some lab stuff. And I was just sitting there with a couple. I was actually, fortunately, I was the only guy in that small cohort to go to the hospital. And I was just, we were doing an evaluation. And we were going one by one by one. And while everybody's going in, I'm just on my laptop kind of doing some work. And the girls were just sitting there talking. And they were talking about different shows. And I guess they consider me as like, because we've been in the program for a while now, so we're all, we all pretty loose around each other. We don't really, people talk, everybody express themselves. Nobody, we've been in the program for so long now. We all know each other, and you should hear how they talk about themselves and guys, and how they think about guys. So when you hear them talk about, oh, President Trump said, grab her by the kitty cat. Oh, how dare he? What? How dare you guys for even saying that kind of stuff? And I'm not saying anything about women. I love women. I'm Jamaican. I love women. I love females. I love beautiful females. I love Bomb Cherry, even though she don't like me. You see what I'm saying? But at the same time, they're hypocrites. And I promise you, if Kamala Harris and Joe Biden had gotten another term, the whole Me Too movement would have gone out of hand. And because of that whole Me Too movement, look how men don't even approach you guys anymore. This same Me Too movement they try to use on President Trump, I'm pretty sure they used it on Bill Cosby, talking about, oh, well, she came over to the house at 3 o'clock. Please, if you come to my house at 3 o'clock in the morning, what do you think I'm thinking? Gentlemen, am I lying? Why would a girl come to, if me and you aren't brothers and sisters, if you're not coming to my house to say, hey, I have a plan to make money, and you are somebody that you know I'm interested in, if you show up at my house at 3:30 in the morning, right, and at 3:30 in the morning, your body's relaxed, don't say nothing to me. I don't want to hear nothing you're talking about. That's 99% of men. So when they bring up this, oh, well, no, Me Too movement, and listen, I have friends that are cops because I used to be in law enforcement, and they tell me all the time, bro, we will go to this house call, and this girl will come out, and her clothes is torn up, and she looked bruised, and she would tell us, oh, the boyfriend beat me up, and then she didn't even know that the boyfriend installed a camera in the house, and the boyfriend was just let her cry, and she doing this. This is a true story, right? That she was crying to the cops, and he did this. You know what the girl did when they reviewed it? My friend said the guy just stayed calm the whole time. He didn't say nothing. He just stood by the door. They cuffed him up, and he said, and he just sat there. And while she was telling her story, he was talking to another cop, and the guy that's being handcuffed talking to another cop. And he said to the cop, hey, listen, officer, can you grab my cell phone from my pocket? And the cop said, yes. The cop grabbed his cell phone. He says, can you open up this app? And the cop opened up the app. And he says, yes, because she kept threatening me that she's going to do this and this, I installed a camera in the house. And literally, they opened up the phone and watched how she hit herself and tore her clothes and hit her head in the wall. So when women come out here with this Me Too movement, guys, I'm telling you, it's not all the time you believe everything. I've even heard stories where they pull the kid aside. The kid aside and say, hey, listen, what happened to mommy and daddy? And the kid would say, oh, mommy was hitting daddy and daddy pushed her and she fell. Oh, really? That's what happened? So this whole Me Too movement, it was always a skeptical movement. But we have people like soft-ass Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, and all these soft-ass people, right? And we put them in power, and we put them to lead our country. To lead our country, our men and our women. To have our little kids say, hey, listen, it's okay to, if you feel like a little boy and you're a girl at age 9, it's great, it's allowable to get a sex change. Are you retarded? How? And then this is the kind of party that you support. We just saw in Colorado where the former vice presidential candidate, what's his name? I can't remember, this idiot that ran with Kamala Harris. He appointed the man that went to go kill the two Democratic officials, Democratic representatives, and he was on point to kill plenty more. So that goes to show you the kind of sense of how would I say this? How you choose your friends. That's who Kamala Harris appointed, and that's who that man who she appointed. That's who he appointed. I wouldn't be surprised to hear that he's behind some of this. You know what I mean? And this is the type of people you guys vote for. You're going to vote for a man. And I have nothing against Joe Biden, right? I really don't. Because a lot of the things that Trump says, Joe Biden said this before. Facts check me again if you think I'm lying. You know what I mean? He spoke about a closed border before when he was a younger politician. And he spoke out about, he literally spoke. If you go Google it, you can see him speaking out about the gay community and how he doesn't promote that and they shouldn't be in politics. And yet still here he is. And I have nothing against the gay community, but don't be a flip-flopper. You're a flip-flopper. You don't stand on something. President Trump has been saying, make this country great for 12 years. He has not changed on anything. When was the last time in your history, besides President Trump, have you seen a president that actually do the things that he said he was going to do? When was the last time you dated a guy that did this thing that he said he was going to do? When was the last time you dated a girl that said she was going to do the things that she promised she was going to do. But yet still all the things that, whether you like it or not, good or bad, you know, because we're all different. So we all have something in our mind that we think is right. And these things that President Trump come up with, obviously he thinks he's right. You know what I mean? Whether we know he's right or wrong, he thinks he's right. And he's our commander-in-chief. And many people, millions of people, said that this is the president we wanted. They said so by their vote. They said so when they tried to kill the man 2-3 times. And this is so stupid the Democratic Party is. You try to kill him one time, guess what? You got more popular. You tried that second time, you lost the election. That's how, to me, I just don't understand who people who are supposed to run this country, aka the Democratic Party. You're supposed to be so smart, but they have nobody smart at all representing them. Kamala Harris is an idiot. She's Jamaican, but we don't own her. People in Jamaica be like, we don't own her. You know who we owned as a public figure in politics, and he wasn't even really a politician. He could have won the presidency over Barack Obama, was Colin Powell. I don't know if you guys know who Colin Powell is, but go look up who Colin Powell is. Now, that's the person I would have voted for. Mind shop, I voted for Barack Obama the first time. Second time, I'm like, this man's trash. This man don't represent us. He represents his own interests and his own little community. And now I see why he pushes for the transgender and gay community. Because his brother-in-law is like that. And again, I have nothing against it. But you know, Michelle Obama was in his ear. Make sure you do this. Make sure you do that. Make sure you do this. Because from her podcast, her crappy-ass little podcast that we watch, we can tell you that she's the man in the house. He only comes up and American, and we should do this, and American. But you can tell he can't even change the AC in his own house. We saw our little round table. It's reminiscent of freaking Will Smith and Jada Pinkett. This ex-first lady can't shut her damn mouth. All she does is go on this little podcast and talk shit as a first lady. It's so embarrassing. You know, you have this first lady, the first black first lady. You can't just retire and shut the F up. You come and you got to make a podcast. What do you need a podcast for? Nobody wants to hear from you. We already told your husband to go sit down when he came out and talk about that we ain't real black men. So why did you go create a podcast that nobody watches? She go and create a podcast and belittles him. Doing the inauguration of President Trump, she didn't show up. It was so embarrassing. And those are who you guys set on a pedestal. Black love. And Black love my ass. She came out publicly and said, man, I only did it because he was the president. But I've been wanting to get out of there. And you guys praised them. Oh, black love, bro, epitome, Barack Obama, Michelle Obama. And she came to your face and told you, whatever. I don't even like this nigga. I don't even want him to touch anything in our house. You know what I mean? And this is the people you guys emulate. These are the people. Look at the life of Barack Obama and look at the life of Joe Biden. Just stop and think about that. Whether you like between Joe Biden and President Trump, whether you like President Trump or not, look at his family. Look at his family. Look how they carry themselves. Look how they behave in public. Look what all of them are doing. They're in politics. They're advocating for something. They're putting their communities first. They're manageable. They're not snorting coke. They're not selling our information to foreign countries. That's how you judge character. That's how you look at one president and then you look at the other one and you say, this guy's a family man. This man puts his family first. His family is in the same political business. They're all doing well. They're all married. Great grandkids. Nobody's doing coke and drugs. Nobody has a criminal history. And then look at this guy. He has this son. He's with strippers. He's taking coke. He's selling. Yo, I can't. I'm gonna be like Kevin Samuels right now. You can't make this shit up. Because you can't. You really can't make it up. But then that goes to show you how poor of a judgment a lot of Americans are. They go and they vote. No, no, no. Kamala Harris is the best candidate for presidency, and Joe Biden should run another. He should run another term while he's taking your tax dollars and sending it to all other foreign countries. Fact check me again. They found money that they sent to a lot of terrorist organizations, to India, who has nothing to do with our country, who tax the crap out of us. Facts check me again. It's all on the internet. You guys can go look it up, whether you agree with me or not. Just like how you can fact check to see that Donald Trump isn't a racist and that Joe Biden is more of a racist than Donald Trump is. It's so funny. But it's like the story that says, it's like how we talk about basketball. We'll talk about Michael Jordan and LeBron James. And nobody ever spoke about how many times Michael Jordan went to the playoffs and didn't win. But you talk about how many times LeBron James went and didn't win. Everybody wants to talk about how great how Michael Jordan is, but then we have a whole video on the internet where a bald-headed Indian guy schooled him in a one-on-one. But they'll never show that because they'll never tell you that. But they never tell you that, oh, by the way, the NBA wanted a face for the NBA because the popularity wasn't so great. So they put a lot of money behind Michael Jordan. You couldn't foul him a certain way. If he's driving, you couldn't stand in the way. So all those points that he had, it was doctored for him. Like, you can't tell people that, oh my God, if it wasn't because of the shoes, the Nike shoes, its popularity wouldn't be so popular. I know women who don't know anything about basketball that would say, oh no, Michael Jordan is better than LeBron James. Why? I don't know. Because he makes great shoes. And so it's so funny because that's how a lot of people say he's great. Trust me, the shoes has something to do with it. Whether you want to believe it or not, simple little things like that can sway your vote. You can see a video or a commercial on TV and you don't know nothing about something, but that commercial came out and it was formatted properly and it was set up a certain way, and in your mind, it planted a seed, and you start thinking like that. That the accolades of one player, it far outshines the accolades of another player, but because of a pair of shoes and because of how people keep talking about him, you think that player is better. It makes no sense to me. It's like, to me, it's like people can't even think for themselves. Like, you can't stop and say, okay, but how it is, people are lazy. People don't want to do the footwork. Like I said, people don't want to fact check. And all the information is there. If you really want to know who was a better candidate between the Democrats and the Republicans during the last election, all you had to do is get on your laptop, just like how people get on their laptop and watch porn and watch foolishness all day long, is get on your laptop, do a little bit of research, 1 or 2 days, and you would have seen, hey, this aligns to what my my ethics is, and then you'd make a better vote. And if you were ethical in any way, you say to yourself, hey, listen, man, I don't think this is right. Yes, I understand such and such immigration, blah, 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 but this doesn't look right. It doesn't look good if you're trying to be a citizen, but yet still you're burning my country, you're burning my flag and waving yours around. I don't care whether I'm Democrat or Republican. We shouldn't tolerate that. You know what I mean? I just don't understand that. You know what I mean? Anyway, guys, that's my rant for today. It went on for about 43 minutes. Like I said, I was going to watch mine and our president speak about the Iranian stuff. I got some studying to do, so I'll be watching. I won't be like making any more comments because I think that's it. So when I'm finishing up the live, I will definitely make my ending comments on the videos that we watched today. But for now, we're gonna watch the Commander-in-Chief speak to the public, and I just don't get it, man. You can tell that President Trump is a man's man, whether you like it or not. You can tell the man is personable. He's good with people. Like, you can tell that you can sit and have a beer with that guy. You know what I mean? And he's not going to be like, he's going to talk about grabbing the kitty. You know what I mean? He's just going to have a man's conversation. You know what I mean? So with that said, guys, I appreciate every single one of you guys, man. Thank you guys for joining the live. I'm about to turn it on this video so we can watch this together. And I got to go feed my Belgian Malinois. Odin! I see you, baby. So I got a little Belgian Malinois. He's a little menace, man. Odin! Come here, buddy. I see you. You ready to eat? Look at him go. Look at him. Look at him go. Look at those ears. Look at those Batman ears. You okay, buddy? Look at him. He's so lanky. He's only like 2 months old. Look how lanky he is. His feet are and his ears are bigger than him. Anyway, fam, let's watch this video together, guys. And guys, I really appreciate you guys joining the live, man. Feel free to subscribe, like, and share the video, man. I really appreciate you guys. Let's watch this one, all right? All right, buddy. Time to get you some food.
Why does it have a flagpole from the grass? They got a flagpole from the grass. They have a little one on top, very little one.
If you haven't subscribed yet, guys, thank you for the subscription. Love you guys. Thank you for the subscription, guys. Thank you.
It's an equality that you guys rarely get.
Hey, buddy, come on. Time to go eat. Come on. You hungry?
I don't know them, but I love them.
You're so lanky. Eat too much.
I mean, I don't know for a fact.
You all right? You outside? Barking at everybody outside.
And we also have one going on what's called the front of the north. We have one going there, identical. So we'll have one on this side of the building, we'll have one on that side of the building properly placed. In this case, we have a lot of choices, putting it on that hill, putting it different places. It's such a beautiful pole, we thought we'd put it near. I mean, it always looks best when it's near a Doral. I put it right near, I have a similar pole. And these are the best poles anywhere in the country, or in the world, actually. They're tapered, they have the nice top. You know, I don't know if you people are aesthetic, you know, there's fake news, I don't know. I don't know, but it's a very exciting project to me. Then at 11 o'clock, we're lifting the flag. But we're going to lift the pole down, and then they're going to the other side, get that, and then we're going to do, I think, 2 flag liftings. We'll be putting it up at 11 here, and a couple of minutes later on the other side. We'll start here at 11. So that'll be very nice, very patriotic. We're doing well and as a country. If the Fed would ever lower rates, you know, we'd buy debt for a lot less. It's a shame. This guy, you ever have a guy that's not a smart person and you're dealing with him, you have to be, he's not a smart guy. He's worried about inflation. I said, that's right. If there's inflation in 6 months or 9 months, you lower the rates, or you raise the rates. You can do whatever you want, Brian, right? So let's say there's rampant inflation, which there's none. You know what there is? There's success. I got a call from Congress last night, sir, there's a problem. I said, what is it? Money is pouring in. We don't know how to account for it. I said, check the tariffs. $88 billion came in from tariffs. No inflation. And it's going to get even more so. I know what I'm doing. So we have a stupid person, frankly, at the Fed. He probably won't cut today. Europe had 10 cuts, and we had none. And I guess he's a political guy. I don't know. He's a political guy who's not a smart person, but he's costing the country a fortune. So what I'm going to do is, you know, he gets out in about 9 months. He gets fortunately terminated. Biden, I would have never reappointed him. Biden reappointed him. I don't know why that is, but I guess maybe he was a Democrat. He got great advice from Mnuchin on this one. Great advice. But he's done a poor job. So we have no inflation. We have only success. And I'd like to see interest rates go down. Now, Biden did a lot of very short-term debt. So we have short-term debt coming due. And because of this guy's rates, you know, if he'd lower a point, I'd pay about a point less. And if he'd lower 2 points, I'd pay about 2 points less. And that's for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, 5 years. It's hundreds of billions, it's even trillions of dollars that we're going to lose because of this too late. I call him too late pal, because he's always too late. I mean, if you look at him, every time I did this, I was right 100%. Maybe I should go to the Fed. Am I allowed to appoint myself? I don't know. Am I allowed to appoint myself to the Fed? I do a much better job than these people. So anyway, we should be 2 points lower. It'd be nice to be 2.5 points lower. We'd be saving $800 billion, $700 billion. It's a lot of money. Take it for nothing, for absolutely nothing. We save $600, $700, $800 billion. We have, I think we're 38th now in interest, and we should be number 1. We should be the lowest. But, and by the way, if he's worried about inflation, that's okay. I understand that. I don't think there's going to be any. So far, there hasn't. We have almost no inflation. We've done a great job. When I came in, we had a lot of inflation. We went through 4 years of the highest inflation in the history of our country with Sleepy Joe Biden. And Sleepy Joe. and he didn't know what the hell he was doing. And so we had the highest inflation we've ever had in the history of our country. And then it came down because when I got elected, it started dropping because people understood that I knew what I was doing. But now we have a man that just refuses to lower the Fed rate, just refuses to do it. And he's not a smart person. I don't even think he's that political. I think he hates me, but that's okay. He should. I call him every name in the pub trying to get him to do something. I've been nice to him. I do it all ways. I don't know how to sell. I've been so nice to him, fellas. Let's have dinner. Too late. I call him too late. Come on, too late. Let's have dinner. I do it every way in the book. I'm nasty. I'm nice. Nothing works. He's like just a stupid person. But I don't expect anything. Maybe he does a little bit. We should be 2.5 points under. Remember, Europe had 10 cuts. We had none. We're paying more rate, more interest than a lot of European nations that can't carry our suitcase. I'm going to be nice. It's another expression. You know what the other expression, can't carry, you know what it is, but I shouldn't use it for other things. So it's very sad to see it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go very short term, like 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. Wait till this guy gets out, get the rates way down, and then go long term. Because we have a tremendous appetite for our debt. Because our country's doing well. But think of it, I got a call from Congress 3 nights ago. So we can't account for the money coming in. I said, that's a good problem. You know, the bad problem is we don't have any money. They can't account. There's so much more money than we thought is coming into the Treasury. We don't know where it's coming from, sir. I said, check out the tariffs. He calls back about a day later. Wow, I think you were right. I was right. That's nothing. You haven't seen anything yet. More importantly than the money coming in, we have factories being built, AI, auto factories. 2 of them stopped yesterday in Mexico, you read, and they're coming here because they don't want to pay the tariffs. They can't pay the tariffs. It doesn't work. So I just want to wish you a lot of luck with the new flagpole. We have 2 of them. And we're going to do this one now, then we're going to do the other one. 11 o'clock or so, we're going to have a flag raising, which will be great. And I got to get these guys back to work. They're making a fortune. They're standing around making a fortune. But remember, there's somewhere in this group, there's somebody that is going to captivate some movie producer. Not Harvey Weinstein, but Harvey's seen it the other day. So it won't be Harvey, but it'll be somebody. You're going to say, that guy is perfect for a movie. And you're going to become a star. And your friends are going to call you, and you won't even return the phone call anymore. They say, what do you do for a living? I put up flagpoles. I'm not even going to talk to you. I'm a big movie star. So some ways you have that. Anyway, let's have a good, they call it a lifting. They also use another word, but I'm not going to use that word. You know what that is? The word, it starts with an E. You know what the word is? If I ever used it, I'd be run out of town by you people. All right, so enjoy it. Doug, you're going to get some good. He's going to win another Nobel Prize, I think, for this picture. So maybe the flag will be even more exciting. But this is pretty exciting. That's some equipment. I'll tell you what. That's some beautiful equipment. There's nothing like America. Have a good time.
Have you given to answer questions about whether you are moving closer, or you believe the U.S. is moving closer to striking Iranian nuclear facilities? Where's your mindset?
I can't say that, right? You know, seriously, think I'm going to answer that question. Will you strike the Iranian nuclear component? And what time exactly, sir? Sir, would you strike it? Will you please inform us so we can be there and watch? You don't know that I'm going to even do it. You don't know. I may do it. I may not do it. I mean, nobody knows what I'm going to do. I can tell you this, that Iran's got a lot of trouble. And they want to negotiate. And I said, why didn't you negotiate with me before? All this death and destruction. Why didn't you negotiate? I said to the people, why didn't you negotiate with me 2 weeks ago? You could have done fine. You would have had a country.
Nuevos wraps de pollo de Popeyes. 3 sabores para deleitar el paladar.
This $900 food card is available now for Americans over 65. This is an important update for seniors. The deadline to apply for your $900 food card for 2025 is rapidly approaching. You can use this card to pay for groceries, gas, bills, and more at stores like Walmart, Walgreens, and Target.
If you're over 65 and on Medicare Parts A and B, then call 1.
It's very sad to watch this. I mean, I've never seen anything like this. So, you know, everyone thought it was going to be the reverse. I didn't think so. And I was telling them, you gotta do something. You gotta negotiate. And at the end, last minute, they said, no, we're not going to be allowed. And they got hit. Remember 60 days, and then came to 60. 61 is going to become a very famous number. That was one hell of a hit. That first hit, that was one hell of a hit. Not sustainable, to be honest. That's where it ended on the first night. Yes.
Is it too late though? Do you think it's too late to now?
Nothing's too
Given the
late.
deal?
The only thing too late is Powell. Powell's too late. Too late, Powell.
Have the Iranians reached out to you, Mr. President?
What?
Have the Iranians reached out to you?
Yes.
And what did you say?
I said, it's very late. You know? I said, it's very late to be talking to me.
Mr. President.
I mean, I don't know, there's a big difference between now and a week ago. They even suggested they come to the White House. It's big difference. But they've suggested that they come to the White House. That's, you know, courageous, but, you know, it's like not easy for them to do. But they suggest, because I can't go now because of what's going on. I had to come back early from the G7, which was terrific, by the way, Canada. Really terrific, good people.
Is there a possibility of next week or later that you're
Well, I don't know how much longer it's going to go on. They're totally defenseless. They have no air defense whatsoever. Totally captured. You know, we totally captured the aircraft. I know a lot of people from Iran, from New York, from Washington, mostly from New York. They're incredible people. They're smart. They're energetic. They can be difficult, but so can you. You know, no, they're great people. They're smart people. And those people are getting the hell beat out of them now. And it's really a shame. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. This is another one. You know, Russia, Ukraine is so stupid. Would have never happened if I was president. You guys agree with that? Would have never happened if I was president. Putin would have never done it. And I spoke to him yesterday, and I said, you know, he actually offered to help mediate. I said, do me a favor. Mediate Europe. Let's mediate Russia first, okay? I said, Vladimir, let's mediate Russia first. You can worry about this later. But I think that's going to work out too, but it's so many people can kill. The big thing with that one is far more people are dead than have been reported in the Ukraine, Russia. Many, many more people.
Mr.
When they
President,
fall
what
down,
does,
they say nobody was hurt.
what does unconditional surrender mean? Can you explain it for those who
Very simple
don't?
words. Very simple. Unconditional surrender. That means I've had it. Okay, I've had it. I give up. No more. Then we go blow up all all the nuclear stuff that's all over the place there. Now they had bad intentions. You know, for 40 years they've been saying death to America, death to Israel, death to anybody else that they didn't like. They were bullies. They were schoolyard bullies. And now they're not bullies anymore, but we'll see what happens. Look, nothing's finished until it's finished. You know, war is very complex. A lot of bad things can happen. A lot of turns are made. So I don't know. I wouldn't say that we won anything yet. I would say that we sure as hell made a lot of progress. And the next week is going to be very big. Maybe less than a week. Maybe less. But is there anybody here that said it would be okay to have a hostile, very zealous, really, but to have a hostile country have a nuclear weapon that could destroy 25 miles or much more than that, could destroy other nations just by the breeze blowing the dust. You know, that dust blows to other nations and they get decimated. It's just not a threat you can have. And we've been threatened by Iran for many years. And if you go back and look at my history, if you go back 15 years, I was saying we cannot let Iran get a nuclear weapon. I've been saying it for a long time. I mean it more now than I ever meant. Yeah.
Mr. President, a question on deforestation. Mr. President, you said last week that changes have been coming from foreigners and seen a lot of the workers they rely on and taken away. But then DHS said this week that worksite enforcement would remain listed as a border zone. So what's your message to farmers?
Look, We gotta get the bad people out of here first, and we're doing that. We're taking them out by the thousands. Murderers, drug dealers, people that are mentally insane from insane asylum. What they gave to us, fellas, they gave, do we have anybody in this? If they want, they'll find out. Right. They'll be checking you won't believe it. Their whole life will be destroyed because of this press conference. Well, they'll destroy these people. I didn't want to tell them that before they started that. They'll end up being, he's a so-and-so, this one is from you know where? Oh, I think you're gonna do it there. I'll be behind you. Far behind you. I'll be right behind you. Now look, we have to take care of our farmers. We have to take care of people that run leisure, hotels. I mean, we have to take care of them. But most importantly, we have to get the criminals out of our country. And Biden let in thousands and 11,888 murderers. Many of them murdered more than one person. Many, almost 50% of them murdered more than one person. He let them into our country. He emptied out the jails of countries from all over the world, from the Congo, from Venezuela, from all over the place. They emptied out the jails, many of them. I would, if I were running one of the countries, I would have emptied out my prison population into the U.S., and many countries did. And we're getting them out, okay? We're getting them out. Thank you very much. Let's watch this. Brian, go ahead. You okay? Yeah. Yeah, we have a thing called the Trump card. This has not been done before, I thought. And for $5 million, this is usually people that would either be working for companies like Apple, I think is going to buy a lot of them, because they can't get people into the country. You know, if you come in through the southern border, you have no problem. You can be a criminal, you can be a drug dealer, and you have no problem. But if you go and graduate #1 in your class from a great school, you can't get a job because there's no access to getting it. You can't get a green card. So we're going to sell that to people, in some cases wealthy, in some cases not wealthy. They'll be paid for by universities. Look at Harvard, they got $53 billion. That whole thing is coming to an end. It's amazing what we found out. What a disgrace. $53 billion. We gave them 5, 6, and some people say it's as much as $9 billion over a short period of time. So that's very much coming to it. They want to make a deal more than, I would say Harvard wants to make a deal more than Iran wants to make a deal, and Iran wants to make a deal. I mean, a lot of things are happening on a lot of fronts, Brian. A lot of good things are happening. And frankly, you know, it's a little bit of a, as we used to say liberal, now they say progressive. I use the word liberal. Progressive is too nice a word because they're destroying the country. They're really destroying these liberal politicians are destroying our country. Look what they've done during Biden's 4 years. I mean, we're working on, so much of our effort goes to getting people out of the country that should have never been here in the first place. What he's done to this country, it's not him. He had no idea what was going on. Everybody knows that. It's other people. It's Lisa and this one and that. All these people, all the scum that was around the Oval, the Oval Office or around the beautiful Resolute desk, telling this guy, here, do this, do that, and not even telling him. They just go over to the auto pen and sign whatever the hell they wanted to sign. You say what you want about Biden. He wasn't for open borders. He wasn't for transgender for everybody. He wasn't for men playing in women's sports. But he has no idea what the hell he is. And they were very upset. They wanted Bernie Sanders. And after about a week of this guy, they said, wait a minute, we just hit gold. This guy has no clue. He'll do anything we tell him. And then they realized they don't even have to get permission. They just go up to the auto pen. That's a subversion. That's a takeover of our government. And you people ought to start looking at it. That's a takeover. Not only did they cheat, I guess you saw it yesterday, came out with China and the license plates. Tens of thousands of cards. They used those cards to vote on the second election, my second, the one 2020. Because as everybody here knows, I won that election by a lot. But the only good thing I can say is this is a much more historic term than I think I could have had as a second term. This is a much more historic election. And now we're going to put up a beautiful flagpole, and we're going to put up a flag. And I hope you enjoy it. And let's see how real people work. These are real people. You're not real people. Your job is Okay?
That's one of the brothers, brother.
Close to 100 feet.
You have a meeting today with the United States Army Chief of Staff. What are you looking forward to achieving diplomatically?
Well, I stopped the war between Pakistan. I love Pakistan. I think Modi is a fantastic man. I spoke to him last night. We're going to make a trade deal with Modi of India. But I stopped the war between Pakistan and India. This man was extremely influential in stopping it from the Pakistan side, Modi from the India side, and others. And they were going at it, and they're both nuclear countries. I got to stop. I don't think I had one story. Did I have one story written about it? I stopped the war between two major nations, major nuclear nations. I don't think I had a story written about it, but that's okay. You know why? The people know. The people know. Did anybody write that story about the war? Did you write it?
No.
Did you write it?
Just one more.
You wrote it.
When does your patience run out with?
No, we put it so the Marine one is very far away. We did it in conjunction with the Air Force, with everybody. Everybody signed up on it. We have to have it far away. It's very far from Marine one's out there. It's not in the field. So you have to have a certain distance. We're about 3 times that distance. Okay? Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Thank you, Prime.
Ignite the belly. Wonderful. Jiminy Cricket, you don't even have a club in your hand.
Say good luck.
What is the end game?
Say it.
When does your patience run out?
We're already run out. That's why we're doing what we're doing.
You think you can take out this?
We had 60 days, big, 60 days, plenty of time. And then made a mistake.
The U.S. does strike nuclear facilities.
People are dead, they shouldn't be dead. We're saying, that's why.
Everybody's stuck down.
We're over here, you don't have to roll your ships. That's why we're changing the grass. People are rolling their ships. So,
That's great.
the wires go inside, sort of the boats, and that's, when they're outside, they're very noisy, they're snapping and what. Yeah.
That's why I'm saying this man is a man's man. Look how he's just casually just talking to everybody, reporters. They couldn't even talk to Kamala Harris or Joe Biden the past 4 years.
Yeah, we'll start pretty soon. We have a beautiful moment. Good question. Right here, see you. East one? From June, see the pictures on that one? Goes all the way over to, we're using one of the top architects.
How large will the flags be?
They're big, they're beautiful. They're big.
Mr. President, do you still intend to go to NATO?
Yeah, I'll be there. Facebook. Amazing equipment, isn't it? What do you think, huh?
Like hard work.
What they do, the mines, what they can develop. They don't know what we're doing. They don't know it's tough, it's easy. You just want to put up flags and go to work, easy, go to work.
What gave you the idea to do this?
I've had it for a long time. The first time I had it, you guys were after me. I said I had to focus. I was the hunted, and now I'm the hunter. Big difference. But he was the same no matter what.
Yeah, it is surprising that out of
all the presidents we've had, that this has never taken place. It's crazy.
There's a little flagpole that's like 50 feet high, there's a little tiny flag up there. This is the real deal, this is the best you can get. There's nothing like this.
So tell me this man don't love his country.
20,
Huh?
25 feet. This is
Tell me this man don't love his country.
And I think it's.
Kamala Harris would have put up a rainbow flag before she did that.
And then we're gonna do a flower.
Barack Obama, Nobel Peace Prize, never put up a flag either.
So you have the ball and then you have
When do you come out here to hit some golf balls? When you find time in your schedule?
35 club championships, you don't know.
I know that.
35 club championships, I haven't hit a ball in 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
I'm gonna get out there.
It's not easy. You're a little busy. Would you rather have me be doing what I'm doing
Of course.
in the end? See the way they have that oyster is great.
Wow.
Because if you lift it up from one, you have to lift it from the bottom. But you have to get it there, but if you lifted it from without that, the whole thing would split.
So, yes.
Because it's in big sections, and they connect so incredibly.
Mr. President, while we're watching, could I ask, when was the last time you spoke with Governor Newsom?
Well, the phone call that he said I didn't make, that I documented, did you see it? I haven't spoken to him. No, sweet.
That was the last
That
time.
was it.
Any changes to the troops being deployed there?
On one occasion, I didn't read that I wanted, because I don't think anybody wrote it. The other one was you.
And
Did you notice I wanted it?
Nice, okay.
You know what's interesting here? Is that when it goes in, they then put sand inside. And if they use dirt or anything else other than sand, it rots out the pole over a period of years. But sand, for some reason, chemically just works. It gives you flexibility, and it doesn't do anything to the cast. It's amazing. So watch it when, so that's 9 feet deep. And then, what is it beautiful? It's a perfect ball.
Oh, so it's going 9 feet.
It goes 9 feet down. And then, there's nothing in there right now. Just the tube goes 9 feet down. And when they fill it with sand. Pure sand, absolutely pure sand. But they didn't, the chemicals do, they work on the bottom. Is that interesting?
So you prefer the rope on the inside?
Oh, much better. First of all, it looks better. I mean, I've never seen it like this. This is the newest and the greatest. I've never seen it in Mar-a-Lago. Have a similar pole, not quite as tall. But the rope's on the outside. And you hear that rope bang.
The little thing sticking out that. The little thing sticking out.
The ball?
Yeah, the bar.
Or spinning on?
The little thing.
Well, I see, that's how they can hook up the ropes. They put the rope in later.
Sometimes you see an eagle on top of like flagpoles.
I like this one. This is good. This is a little more classy.
Mr.
I'm a
President,
big eagle person, as you probably know, but this looks better.
Mr. President, can you share some of what you've told Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu?
So, keep going. What do I
Have you
say?
given him any
Speak to him every day. He's a good man, doing a lot. Been very unfairly treated by his country, I think. Very unfairly treated.
Have you given him any indication that you may seek to aid them more than you have already?
No. So far, he's doing a good job. He has been treated very unfairly. You know, he's a wartime president, and he's going through this nonsense. It's ridiculous.
It seems like you agree with him that
National Security Council.
It's a very good meeting. Yeah.
Anything that came up.
Things, little things, big things, but good meeting. One to one.
it seems like
See
you
how straight that is? Look, they put that dead straight, and then they pour in the sand. It's amazing, right? Who would think you have to have sand?
You miss
And
it.
it's gotta be a very pure sand. It's
I
gotta
know
be.
you enjoy being president. You haven't missed it.
I love the instruction, yeah. I love it.
You're part of it.
Well, I love it. I know it better than anybody. When I see a train, a railroad going from San Francisco to LA, I think it's 100 times over. One of the most incompetent things, let's do something. Well, why do they keep funding that? I think we're not going to. In fact, a little bit of a story, we're not going to fund that anymore. It's out of control. First of all, it doesn't go where it's supposed to. It's supposed to go from LA to San Francisco. Now, because they don't have any money, they've spent, what is it, 30, 40 times more than those supposed to spend. And they made it much shorter. because it no longer goes into the cities, it stops miles outside of the city.
Because if you were a builder and you went 34 times over the budget, you would be fired, right?
If you want one time, if you want a half a time over the budget. So see what they do, they run around paying the sand. It's all pure sand.
A lot of the time,
If it weren't pure sand, they would eat away at the metal.
Mr. President, with the rail funding in California, will your recent dust-ups with Governor Newsom impact additional wildfire relief out there? They've requested $40 billion.
The man's incompetent. He shouldn't have forests like that. You clean the floor of your forest and you won't have any fires. So once again, that's very, very flammable trees. You don't have forests now because they clean the floors, they maintain their forest. Good, but you know, hatred is never a good thing in politics. When you don't like somebody, you don't respect somebody, it's hard for that person to get money if you're upset.
How will you ensure
I'll
that?
tell you one thing, if I didn't bring in the military to Los Angeles, you wouldn't even have you probably wouldn't be here, you'd be covering the riots in Los Angeles. We got a great ruling, as you know, yesterday. If we didn't bring in the military of Los Angeles, you would have maybe no city. You'd have just what you have with the housing, burned to the ground.
How will you ensure
What
that
they don't is they take this out.
Mr. President, it seems like you agree with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin.
Yeah, well, the ruling yesterday, does that mean more empowerment than national government of the city is willing to?
Nothing more about it. I always thought I wasn't. It would be shocking, really. Only a guy like Newsom would even ask for it. You know, he should be thanking me instead of fighting. Newsom, he wouldn't have a city right now, it would be burning to the ground. And have people running all over, throwing rocks. Did you see them breaking up the concrete? Because we caught the bricks. They were bringing bricks, heavy bricks, red bricks. And by the bag, 5 or 6 big bags, the guys could, strong guys that could hardly even carry them. They would hand them out to people to throw at the police. And by the way, the chief of police in Los Angeles said that we needed the help. If we didn't have the help, we would have been in trouble. Now he changed his mind 4 days later. You know, a little bit. But he actually needed it more. But we did a great job. We quelled that. And the fact that we are even there thinking about going in, they won't bother with it. And they'll go someplace else. But we'll be there too. We'll be wherever they go.
Mr. President, you extended again?
Great numbers.
1 cup of fresh aged cheddar for a new cheddar crust pizza sent down to our kitchen from the cheddar heavens.
Actually, it was sent down here from the dairy farm.
You know, that tracks, actually. Yeah.
We're making you a 1-topping cheddar crust pizza for $11.99. Better ingredients, better pizza.
Papa John's.
Got safety protocols? Grainger has the safety pros to call. Shop our vast inventory of safety products at Grainger.com. Call, click, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
We had 0. Did you see that, everybody?
You were going to ask.
0.
I was gonna ask that.
She's on our side. There's most people who don't want to ask.
Well, she said, she told earlier, she probably didn't see the main numbers. It's
0.
How is that even?
Because we really have a tight quarter. Now, we have let a lot of people in, but they came in legally. They actually have to take a little test, and have to say, I love America, you know, minor things like that.
Mr. President, can you talk about extending the cut again?
Yeah, we'll be extending it, we're going to extend it. We're going to probably make a deal. I think we'll need China's blessing on it. I think they'll bless it.
How was Prime Minister Carter?
Very good.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been nicer. We enjoyed the Canada stay a lot. And I had to come back, obviously, for the war that's happening in the Middle East, but I got everything done. He's a good man. I think Carney's a good man. Very well, a good representative of Canada.
You think he's liked by the people?
I think so.
Mr. President, have you given the Iranians an ultimatum?
You could say so. They know what's up. Maybe you could call it the ultimate ultimatum, right?
What essentially was that, though? What do you
Oh, I don't
mean?
want to say it. Not, give me. I would say she's doing great. We really enjoy it. Mariners enjoy it. All my kids are enjoying it. Pretty hot out here, isn't it?
What's muggier, DC or West Palm Beach?
I think this is muggy.
Mr. President, could I ask you about the Paramount deal and the military finance? Like, what's holding that up? And do you see that being resolved?
Ellison's great. They'll do a great job with it. So what they did is they interviewed 60 Minutes. They interviewed Kamala. Her answer was horrendous. I would say election threatening. This is the day before the election. Her answer was election threatening, was so incompetent. So they took the entire answer out, and they took another answer to another question completely. And they did that, I understand, a number of times, but you don't have to go to a number of times. The main question they asked, and we caught them. And they're very embarrassed, and they're working on it. So, but think of it, did you ever hear that one before? They took the entire, every word, threw it out, put another answer in. You think they do that for me?
I think it's happened to David.
Well, I've never seen it. I thought I've seen everything. That I've never seen it. It's very embarrassing. The head of 16 Minutes got fired. The head of CBS got fired. They're all getting fired. You see what they're doing? Get away. This is only around construction is exciting. So you have to get it perfectly straight. And once it's perfect, then they pour in the sand and it's there for 100 years.
Mr. President, as the Senate works on the big beautiful bill, it seems like SALT is going to be a really big issue between Senate Republicans and House Republicans. So what are you telling senators? Because the New York Republicans on the House side are making clear that that's a red line for them.
Well, if it were a red line, then get ready for a 68% tax increase in 1929, because we're taking care of that issue too. You know what that is? That's debt ceiling. The debt ceiling, we have to move the debt. And if we don't move the debt, it's, you violate governance. It's a terrible thing. Actually, Pocahontas even agreed with that. She even wanted to get rid of the debt ceiling because she said it's too violent. It is violent. So, I mean, anybody that votes against it, they voted to give a 68% tax increase, and many other things. There would be no money for the border. You know, we have billions of dollars allocated to immigration, keeping criminals out, getting criminals out too. If that doesn't pass, you get a 68% tax increase. And I would say this, any senator that votes against it, and that includes Democrats, I think they'll be finished in politics.
On SALT specifically, do you think Senate Republicans or House Republicans will have to bend more in order to get the bill at large?
I don't know. We're going to see how it works out. It's a very difficult issue, to be honest with you. It's very difficult, and I understand both sides. We'll just have to see. Hopefully a compromise or something is going to be made, but it's a very difficult issue. But remember that, you know, people say, what do you think? 68% tax, so all those numbers I told you how well the economy is doing, it all gets wiped out. You'd have the largest tax increase in history by far, by 3 times, if they don't get the big, beautiful deal. I would say the great, big, beautiful deal. I put the word great in there. They do that.
It's going to be great, great.
If we get that passed, it'll be the best, one of the greatest pieces. And that's just the beginning of a lot of things that are going to happen. Because we're going to get numbers down, we're going to get them way down. But that's the beginning, that's a big first step. It's the most important piece of legislation. In terms of dollar value and everything else, there's nothing as big as that. You know, they thought that might be 7 or 8 bills, it's all in one.
Think of taxes. Starting on July 1st, California is welcoming the tax on gasoline.
Well, you know, I beat the California Amendment. Congress just passed a bill ending it. It was terrible. They were saying everybody by 2030 has to have an electric car. People don't want that. I'm all for electric cars, but you have to want one. And right now it's about 7%, but they were forcing everybody to have it. I ended it. And now they're coming up with more. No, in California, you know, we've got some gas stations where just 2 weeks ago, it was $1.98, $1.99. We've got the gas down below. You know, we have this little situation which will drive it up a little bit, but very little. And it's going to come down again and give people a lot of extra money. Groceries are down, eggs are down, you know, the eggs. They hit me the first week about eggs. But no, I think that, look, you know what I do whenever they talk about Gavin Newsom? I say, look at the railroad. Look at the railroad. It's not even possible. Do you think he comes out and sees the construction workers?
I don't think he could have married the flag in front of the town.
No, I don't think
Mr. President, some of your supporters are split on the U.S. response to
Who you with?
CNN. There's a split
Fake news,
though,
fortunately nobody watches.
but my question
Anybody
is,
watching CNN nowadays? I haven't seen it in a long time.
so some of your supporters are wary of the U.S. getting involved in another foreign law, and some believe that we should support.
Do you ever ask a positive question? My supporters are more in love with me today, and I'm in love with them more than they were even at election time when we had a total landslide. We had, you know, we won all 7 swing states. The CNN report that we won all 7 out of 7, which everyone said would be almost impossible. And we won by millions of votes. We won 2,750 districts versus 505 districts. Think of that, 2,750 versus 505. And CNN.
I think what you might be alluding to is the base is going to stay with you regardless. And you've gone through different, regardless. But some of the people in the base don't want a long-term war. They're afraid that we're going to get into a long-term war.
We're not looking for a long time. We're looking for, I only want one thing. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's it. I'm not looking long-term trip. And I've been saying that for 20 years. I've been saying it as a civilian. We've got a lot of publicity. People would cover it. Very simply, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's it. It's not a question of anything else. And if you did, you wouldn't have much of a country because they would use it on us, they would use it on other people, and they'd get terror all over the world. So I may have some people that are a little bit unhappy now, but I have some people that are very happy, and I have people outside of the base that can't believe that this is happening, that's how happening. And there was a poll that just came out today that my approval rating is the highest it's ever been. All I'm doing is saying you can't have a nuclear weapon. And I tried to do it nicely, and then on day 61 I said, let's go, because we can't let that happen. And I've been saying it for 20 days. I'm going to leave. Thank you very much.
Resort Pass unlocks exclusive day passes to luxury hotels, so you can access the best pools, spas, and more without having to stay overnight. Vacation for a day, starting at $25 with same and next day bookings at resortpass.com.
If you can't cut it in F1 Academy, there's not going to be much of a career there for you.
I need my sister. Tell me who's
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. What a great place. What a great place, but more importantly, what great people. I want to thank His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, for that incredible introduction. He's an incredible man. Known him a long time now. There's nobody like him. Thank you very much. Appreciate it very much, my friend. And it's a tremendous honor to return to this beautiful kingdom and be welcomed back with such extraordinary generosity and warmth. I've never forgotten the exceptional hospitality shown to us by King Solomon, who's just, we talk about a great man. That is a great man. That is a great man, a great family. So that visit took place exactly 8 years ago. The graciousness of the royal family and the Saudi people is really unsurpassed, no matter where you go. Let me also thank the countless ministers, government officials, business leaders, and distinguished guests for that warm welcome. Very warm, and I know so many of you like to call out all of your names, but we have a lot of problems. We'd be here for a long time. We don't want that, so don't be upset. With this historic state visit, we celebrate more than 80 years of close partnership between the United States and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Ever since President Franklin Roosevelt met with King Solomon's father, King Abdul Aziz, aboard the USS Quincy in 1945, the U.S.-Saudi relationship has been a bedrock of security and prosperity. Today, reaffirm this important bond, and we take the next steps to make our relationship closer, stronger, and more powerful than ever before. It is more powerful than ever before. And by the way, it will remain that way. We don't go in and out like other people. It will remain that way. I've come this afternoon to talk about the bright future of the Middle East, but first let me begin by sharing the abundance of good news from a place called America. In less than 4 months, our new administration has achieved more than most other administrations accomplish in 4 years or even 8 years. We've actually done, for the most part, more. The day I took office, we inherited, thank you. Thank you. The day I took office, we inherited a colossal invasion on our southern border, an invasion like you'd never want to see here. Nobody should ever want to see it. But within weeks, we slashed illegal border crossings to an all-time low, down 99.999%. That's good, even for this great gentleman standing right in front of me. That's a good number. We had hundreds of thousands of people that came in at the same time last year, and last month we had, in this massive border, 3 people that got in. That's quite a difference, and we have no choice but to get a lot of the people that came in because they were not the best people. They were, in many cases, very bad people. We're getting them out. We're getting them out very fast. We're bringing them back to where they came from. We have no choice. After years of military recruiting shortfalls, enlistments in the U.S. Armed Forces are now the highest in 30 years because there is such an incredible spirit in the United States of America. We have tremendous spirit again. Just about a year ago, there was a big story, front page on every paper all over the world, that nobody wanted to enlist in our military, meaning we were way under enlisted. And just last week it came out that we had the strongest enlistment. They say 30 years, but probably it's maybe ever. They don't go back that far. It's the best, and that includes police officers, firemen, everything else. Is a great spirit in the United States right now. A brand new poll from Rasmussen just showed that the number of Americans who believe the nation is on the right track, they have a right track, wrong track, is now the highest in over 20 years. And it hasn't been anything like this because for many years it was the wrong track. And I can tell you for the last 4 years it was definitely the wrong track, but it's the highest it's been in many, many years. We renamed the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America. That was very popular, other than perhaps with Mexico. And most importantly for the people in this room, the days of economic misery under the last administration are rapidly giving way to the greatest economy in the history of the world. We are rocking. The United States is the hottest country, with the exception of your country, I have to say, right? I'm not going to take that on. No, Mohammed, I'm not going to take that on. Wouldn't that be a terrible thing if I made that full statement? But I will not do it. You're hotter. At least as long as I'm up here, you're hotter. But groceries, gasoline, energy, and all other prices are down with no inflation. We have no inflation, and in a few short weeks, we've created 464,000 brand new jobs. Think of that. It's almost 500,000 jobs created just in a matter of weeks. We just reached a historic trade agreement with the United Kingdom, and over the weekend we reached a breakthrough agreement with China. Both outstanding deals. China's agreed. We have to get it down. We have to get the little details down. Scott, you're going to work on that very hard, but China's agreed to open up to the United States for trade and everything else. But they have to do it, so we'll see what happens. But we had a very, very good meeting with both of those countries. We are cutting 10 old regulations for every new regulation. We're getting rid of all of the red tape that is so many, frankly, countries as they get older, they develop a lot of red tape, and we're getting rid of it. We're getting rid of it at record levels. And I'm pleased to report that the United States Congress is on the verge of passing the largest tax cut and regulation cut in American history. We think we're in good shape to get that. And if we get that, that will be like a rocket ship for our country. In the first quarter of the year, the investment in America was up an astounding 22%. More than $10 trillion of new investments have been announced or are coming just since the election on November 5th. So think of that. In a very short period of time, we have over $10 trillion, and it could be much higher than that. Not everybody comes to the White House to have a news conference that they're going to be opening up in America, but they're all coming in at numbers that we've never seen before. If you take a look at other presidencies, they wouldn't do $1 trillion sometime in years. We did this in essentially 2 months because you have to say we got into office and they gave me about a month to clean up and fix up the Oval Office, and after that we started working, and the money is pouring in, the jobs are pouring in, the companies are pouring into our country like we've never seen before. There's never been anything like it, and we let other people tariff us into losing a lot of money and a lot of jobs, and now we're tariffing them, and it's at a level that nobody's seen. It's a level that is making us a very much different country and a very different Republican Party. We won a tremendous victory in November. We won all 7 swing states, the popular vote by millions and millions of votes. The Electoral College, we won by 312 to 226. Remember they said, well, we could get to 270. No, we got to 312. That's a big difference. And very importantly, we won counties throughout the United States, 2,660 to 451. That's why when you look at a map, they're all red. The whole country is red. Red stands for Republican. From the moment on and from the moment we started, we've seen wealth that just poured and is pouring back into America. Apple is investing $500 billion. NVIDIA is investing, and I see my friend is here, Jensen. That's very good, wherever you may be. Thank you very much, because he's putting in $500 billion. TSMC is investing. Where is Jensen, by the way? Where is he? He's standing here. Where is he? I just saw Beth. Thank you very much, Jensen. I mean, Tim Cook isn't here, but you are. What a job you've done. He said he's got 99% of the chip market. I don't know. That's a big. That's not easy to beat. But what a job you've done. Thank you. We are proud to have you in our country. You know that. Thank you for the investment. TSMC is investing $200 billion, and with this trip, we're adding over $1 trillion more in terms of investment into our country and buying our products. And you know, nobody makes military equipment like us. We have the best military equipment, the best missiles, the best rockets, the best everything. Best submarines, by the way. Most lethal weapon in the world. In addition to purchases of $142 billion of American-made military equipment by our great Saudi partners, the largest ever. This week there are multi-billion-dollar commercial deals with Amazon, Oracle, AMD, they're all here, Uber, Qualcomm, Johnson & Johnson, and many, many more. So I want to congratulate everybody, so many great business executives, many of you, most of you I know, and they're coming in, you know, about a month ago. They weren't that happy when they saw me, and now they're saying, sir, you're doing a great job, thank you very much. It's amazing what a rising market will do. Oh, it's going to get a lot higher. In fact, I told people 5 weeks ago, this is a great time to buy. I got criticized for that. Now they don't criticize me anymore. People should have listened. But it's going to go a lot higher. You see, we've never had anything like this happen. It's an explosion of investment and jobs, and great companies are coming in. Never seen anything like it. There's no better place to make a future or make a fortune, do anything, frankly, than what we have in the United States of America under a certain President, Donald J. Trump. I have the right attitude. I have the same attitude that the people in the front row, second row, third row have. As you get back, perhaps they start to wane a little bit in terms of their view. But they understand, and we're doing what a lot of smart people would do. And we're not necessarily being politically correct. You saw what we did yesterday with healthcare. We've cut our healthcare by 50 to 90%. You're going to see drugs and pharmaceuticals come down at numbers that nobody has ever seen. And drugs, pharmaceuticals, we think will be dropping. And it will be a redistribution of costs with other nations, which really took advantage of a very nice group of people that ran our country. But not only is this a time of incredible excitement in the United States, it's also an exhilarating period right here in the Arabian Peninsula. Beautiful place, by the way, beautiful place. Exactly, thank you. Exactly 8 years ago this month, I stood in this very room and looked forward to a future in which the nations of this region would drive the forces of terrorism and extremism, drive them right out of existence, and take your place among the proudest, most prosperous, most successful nations anywhere in the world as leaders of a modern and rising Middle East. So exciting, so exciting. Mohammed, do you sleep at night? How do you sleep? Huh? Just think it. What a job. He tosses and turns like some of us. Tosses and turns all night. How do I make it even better all night? It's the ones that don't toss and turn. They're the ones that will never take you to the promised land, won't they? But you have done some job. True. But critics doubted that it was possible what you've done. But over the past 8 years, Saudi Arabia has proved the critics totally wrong. The transformation that has occurred even by these incredible business leaders. I mean, you had the biggest leaders in business anywhere in the world standing right before us. But the transformation that has occurred under the leadership of King Salman and Crown Prince Mohammed has been truly extraordinary. Such a thing as I don't think ever happened before. I've never seen anything at that scale happen before. And I guess, you know, maybe you could say the United States is doing pretty well too, you know, but I don't think too many people have seen that happen before. Majestic skyscrapers, the towers that I see, the difference between now and 8 years ago. And 8 years ago was very impressive, but the towers that I see rising, some of the exhibits that I was shown by Mohammed, what I've seen there is just an amazing, it's an amazing process, an amazing genius from so many people, architecture, but I have a feeling I know where many of those ideas came from. Happens to be sitting right in this room right before me, but the towers and all of the different, I've seen a lot of different towers. I didn't think there's any version of a tower that I haven't seen in one form or another. I just passed 4 exhibits. I have never seen anything like any of them. So it's going to be very exciting. And they sit among the ancient wonders of a growing and exciting city. It's really amazing. Riyadh is becoming not just a seat of government, but a major business, cultural, and high-tech capital of the entire world. The World Cup is here. Johnny, just stand up, Johnny. Johnny, thank you, Johnny. Great job, Johnny, great job. But the World Cup and the World Expo will soon be coming here, just like the World Cup is coming to the United States. It's going to be really exciting next year. The engines of Formula One racing now roar through the streets of Jeddah. in a historic milestone. Other industries recently surpassed oil. Think of it, all of your other industries now have surpassed oil. I don't know if a lot of people will understand what that means. It's so big to make up a majority of the Saudi economy for the very first time ever. So think of that. Other industries are now bigger even than oil, which is always going to be a big monster. It's a big one, but that's a great tribute to you and economic development properly used. In other cities throughout the peninsula, places like Dubai and Abu Dhabi, Doha, Muscat, the transformations have been unbelievably remarkable. Before our eyes, a new generation of leaders is transcending the ancient conflicts of tired divisions of the past and forging a future where the Middle East is defined by commerce, not chaos, where it exports technology, not terrorism, and where people of different nations, religions, and creeds are building cities together, not bombing each other out of existence. We don't want that. And it's crucial for the wider world to note this great transformation has not come from Western interventionists or flying people in beautiful planes giving you lectures on how to live and how to govern your own affairs. No, the gleaming marvels of Riyadh and Abu Dhabi were not created by the so-called nation builders, neocons, or liberal nonprofits like those who spent trillions and trillions of dollars failing to develop Kabul, Baghdad, so many other cities. Instead, the birth of a modern Middle East has been brought by the people of the region themselves, the people that are right here, the people that have lived here all their lives, developing your own sovereign countries, pursuing your own unique visions and charting your own destinies in your own way. It's really incredible what you've done. In the end, the so-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves. They told you how to do it, but they had no idea how to do it themselves. Peace, prosperity, and progress ultimately came not from a radical rejection of your heritage, but rather from embracing your national traditions and embracing that same heritage that you love so dearly. And it's something only you could do. You achieved a modern miracle, the Arabian way. That's a good way. Today, the Gulf nations have shown this entire region a path towards safe and orderly societies with improving quality of life, flourishing economic growth, expanding personal freedoms, and increasing responsibilities on the world stage. After so many decades of conflict, finally it is within our grasp to reach the future that generations before us could only dream about, a land of peace, safety, harmony, opportunity, innovation, and achievement right here in the Middle East. So beautiful. It's such a beautiful thing that's happening. I guess, you know, the people that are here can't even really appreciate it because you see it happening, and it's when you come to a place that you haven't seen in 5 years or 10 years or 20 years that it's even more incredible. When I left office just over 4 years ago, that future seemed almost impossible, what you've done. Together we had obliterated the killers of ISIS. We wiped them out, terminated its founder and leader, al-Baghdadi. We had healed the divide in the Gulf Cooperation Council, it's a very big deal, and united the nations of the region to stand against the enemies of all civilization. We'd imposed unprecedented sanctions on Iran and starved the regime of resources to fund terror. They were unable to fund anything because they had no money left. They had no money. But the new administration came in and let them have a lot of money, and you saw what happened. It was not money well spent. And with the historic Abraham Accords that we're so proud of, all the momentum was aimed at peace and it aimed very successfully. It's been an amazing thing, the Abraham Accords, and it's my fervent hope, wish, and even my dream that Saudi Arabia, a place I have such respect for, especially over the last fairly short period of time, what you've been able to do, but we'll soon be joining the Abraham Accords. I think it'll be a tremendous tribute to your country, and it will be something that's really going to be very important for the future of the Middle East. I took a risk in doing them, and they've been an absolute bonanza for the countries that have joined. The Biden administration did nothing for 4 years. We would have had it filled out. But it will be a special day in the Middle East with the whole world watching when Saudi Arabia joins us, and you'll be greatly honoring me, and you'll be greatly honoring all of those people that have fought so hard for the Middle East, and I really think it's going to be something special, but you'll do it in your own time, and that's what I want, and that's what you want, and that's the way it's going to be. When I left office, the only thing still standing between this region and its unbelievable potential was a small group of rogue actors and violent thugs seeking constantly to drag the Middle East backward and into havoc, mayhem, and indeed into war. Unfortunately, instead of confronting these destructive forces, the last U.S. administration chose to enrich them and empower them and give them billions and billions of dollars. The Biden administration, the worst administration in the history of our country, by the way, spurned our most trusted and long-standing Gulf partners, and I can say partners worldwide. One of our great, great partners, no matter who we look to, and we have great partners in the world, but we have none stronger and nobody like the gentleman that's right before me. He's your greatest representative, greatest representative. And if I didn't like him, I'd get out of here so fast. You know that, don't you? He knows me well. I do. I like him a lot. I like him too much. That's why we give so much, you know? Too much. I like you too much. Great guy. They lifted sanctions on Iran in exchange for getting nothing, and sent the regime tens of billions of dollars to fund terror and death all over the world. And they laughed at him, they laughed at our leader, and they're still laughing at our leader. They thought him a fool, and they made nothing but trouble ever since, including the funding of October 7th, one of the worst days ever in the history of the Middle East. Horrible day. Biden removed the Houthis from the list of foreign terrorist organizations, even launched right here at your beautiful city of Riyadh, and launched at ships that they happened to be sailing in the wrong location. The Biden administration's extreme weakness and gross incompetence derailed progress toward peace, destabilized the region, and put at risk everything we had worked so hard to build together. And when you think of the great achievements that you've made, to do it in light of a pretty hostile administration, an administration that was not a believer, it makes your achievements even greater. Makes them even greater, you know that. But in a few short months since taking office, we have achieved the swift return of American strength at home and abroad, now working with the vast majority of people in this region who seek stability and calm. Our task is to unify against the few agents of chaos and terror that are left and that are holding hostage the dreams of millions and millions of great people. The biggest and most destructive of these forces is the regime in Iran, which has caused unthinkable suffering in Syria, Lebanon, Gaza, Iraq, Yemen, and beyond. There could be no sharper contrast with the path you have pursued on the Arabian Peninsula than the disaster unfolding right across in the Gulf of Iran. Think of that. They wanted to name it that. I said, they're not going to let them do that. Do you mind if I stop that? I stopped it. We're not going to let that happen. While you have been constructing the world's tallest skyscrapers in Jeddah and Dubai, Tehran's 1979 landmarks are collapsing into rubble and dust. They had it going for a little while under a much different system, but those buildings are largely falling apart, falling down, while you're building some of the world's biggest and most incredible infrastructure projects, buildings, all sorts of things you're building that nobody's ever even seen before. Iran's decades of neglect and mismanagement have left the country plagued by rolling blackouts lasting for hours a day. All the time you hear about it. While your skill has turned dry deserts into fertile farmland, Iran's leaders have managed to turn green farmland into dry deserts as their corrupt water mafia, it's called it the water mafia, causes droughts and empty riverbeds. They get rich, but they don't let the people have any of it. And then, of course, there's the key difference at the root of it all. While the Arab states are focused on becoming pillars of regional stability and world commerce, Iran's leaders have focused on stealing their people's wealth to fund terror and bloodshed abroad. Most tragic of all, they have dragged down an entire region with them. Countless lives were lost in the Iranian effort to maintain a crumbling regime in Syria. Look at what happened with Syria. In Lebanon, their Hezbollah proxies have pillaged the hopes of a nation whose capital, Beirut, was once called the Paris of the Middle East. Can you imagine? All of this misery and so much more was entirely avoidable, absolutely avoidable. And Mohammed knew that. He knew that. Smart people knew that. If only the Iranian regime had focused on building their nation up instead of tearing the region down. Yet I'm here today not merely to condemn the past chaos of Iran's leaders, but to offer them a new path and a much better path toward a far better and more hopeful future. As I've shown repeatedly, I am willing to end past conflicts and forge new partnerships for a better and more stable world, even if our differences may be very profound, which obviously they are in the case of Iran. I have never believed in having permanent enemies. I am different than a lot of people think. I don't like permanent enemies, but sometimes you need enemies to do the job, and you have to do it right. Enemies get you motivated. In fact, some of the closest friends of the United States of America are nations we fought wars against in generations past, and now they're our friends and our allies. I want to make a deal with Iran. If I can make a deal with Iran, I'll be very happy if we're going to make your region and the world a safer place. But if Iran's leadership rejects this olive branch and continues to attack their neighbors, then we will have no choice but to inflict massive maximum pressure, drive Iranian oil exports to zero like I did before. You know that they were a virtually bankrupt country because of what I did. They had no money for terror, they had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, and take all action required to stop the regime from ever having a nuclear weapon. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. But with that said, Iran can have a much brighter future, but will never allow America and its allies to be threatened with terrorism or nuclear attack. The choice is theirs to make. We really want them to be a successful country. We want them to be a wonderful, safe, great country, but they cannot have a nuclear weapon. This is an offer that will not last forever. The time is right now for them to choose. Right now, we don't have a lot of time to wait. Things are happening at a very fast pace. They're happening right here. They're happening at a very fast pace. So they have to make their move right now, one way or the other. Make your move. As I said in my inaugural address, my greatest hope is to be a peacemaker and to be a unifier. I don't like war. We have the greatest military, by the way, in the history of the world. You know, I rebuilt our military in my first 4 years and rebuilt it into the most powerful military there is. And you saw that when I knocked out ISIS in 3 weeks. People said it would take 4 years, 5 years. I did it. We did it in 3 weeks. Just days ago, my administration successfully brokered a historic ceasefire to stop the escalating violence between India and Pakistan. And I used trade to a large extent to do it. I said, fellas, come on, let's make a deal. Let's do some trading. Let's not trade nuclear missiles. Let's trade the things that you make so beautifully. And they both have very powerful leaders, very strong leaders, good leaders, smart leaders. And it all stopped. Hopefully it'll remain that way, but it all stopped. I was very proud of Marco Rubio and all of the people that worked so hard. Marco, stand up. What a great job you did on that. Thank you, J.D. Vance, Marco. The whole group worked with you, but it was a great job. And I think they're actually getting along. Maybe we can even get them together a little bit, Marco, where they go out and have a nice dinner together. Wouldn't that be nice? But we've come a long way, and this could be, millions of people could have died from that conflict that started off small and was getting bigger and bigger and bigger by the day. I've also been working relentlessly to end the terrible bloodshed between Russia and Ukraine, and very importantly, talks are being held in Turkey later this week, probably on Thursday, and they could produce some pretty good results. Our people are going to be going there. Marco's going to be going there. Others are going to be going, and we'll see if we can get it done. 5,000 people, young people for the most part, soldiers from Ukraine, soldiers from Russia. They're not from here and they're not from the United States, but they're souls. They're souls. I think usually, mostly they're young, beautiful souls that left their parents waving goodbye, left their brothers and sisters. Goodbye, I'll see you soon. And they got blown to pieces. 5,000 on average a week are dying, and people are dying elsewhere in the region, but tremendous numbers like we haven't seen since World War II are dying, and I want to stop it. I want to stop it. It's a horrible war. Would have never happened if I were president. That's a war that would have never happened. October 7th would have never happened if I were president, because Iran had no money to pay Hamas or anybody else. They had no money. They were not looking to take care of them. They had to take care of themselves. They had no money. We stopped their oil effectively with the embargoes and sanctions. But let me take this opportunity to thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for the constructive role that you played in facilitating the Ukraine talks. And it really is, you've been amazing. You've made everything available to us. Thank you very much. Thank you. And if we get that settled, we'll pay a special tribute to what you've done. You really did lay a great groundwork. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. The West should not be dragging itself backward into another endless war in Europe, yet another endless war. We should stop the killing and work together to address the biggest long-term threats as one unbeatable team. Think of us as an unbeatable team. I mean, when you look at what you've done here, that's much more difficult than stopping stupidity. Think of it. It's stupidity. What you've done is much more difficult, and you did it better than anybody else has ever done it. As President of the United States, my preference will always be for peace and partnership. Whatever those outcomes can be achieved, always, it's always going to be that way. Only a fool would think otherwise. In recent years, far too many American presidents have been afflicted with the notion that it's our job to look into the souls of foreign leaders and use U.S. policy to dispense justice for their sins. They loved using our very powerful military, and now it's really the most powerful it's ever been. We just are getting a budget approved, $1 trillion, highest budget we've ever had in history for military, $1 trillion. And we're getting the greatest missiles, the greatest weapons. And I hate to do it, but you have to do it because we believe in peace through strength. You have to have the strength, otherwise bad things could happen. But hopefully we'll never have to use any of those weapons. Seems to be an awfully big waste of money. You're never going to use them, but hopefully we'll never have to use them because the destructive power of some of those weapons are like nobody's seen before. I believe it is God's job to sit in judgment, my job to defend America, and to promote the fundamental interest of stability, prosperity, and peace. That's what I really want to do. I will never hesitate to wield American power if it's necessary to defend the United States or to help defend our allies. And there will be no mercy for any foe who tries to do us or them harm. We will have no mercy. They understand that. That's why I've been pretty lucky. A lot of people think, you know, he's looking to fight. He's looking to fight, and things get settled. It's an amazing thing when they really think you mean it. But we do. We have the greatest military, the strongest military, stronger than any. Nobody's even close. We have the best weapons in the world, but we don't want to use them. If you threaten America or our partners, however, then you'll be faced with overwhelming strength and devastating force. We have things that you don't even know about, you don't hear about, and if you did, you say, wow. In recent weeks, following repeated attacks on American ships and freedom of navigation in the Red Sea, the United States military launched more than 1,100 strikes on the Houthis in Yemen. As a result, the Houthis agreed to stop. They said, we don't want this anymore. It's the first time you've heard that from them, too. They're tough. They're fighters. But just days ago, we were asked to cease targeting commercial. They were not going to be targeting commercial ships in any way, shape, or form, anything American. And they were very happy that we stopped. But we had 52 days of thunder and lightning like they've never seen before. This was a swift, ferocious, decisive, and extremely successful use of military force. Not that we wanted to do it, but they were shooting down ships. They were shooting at you. They were shooting at Saudi Arabia. We don't want them shooting at Saudi Arabia if that's okay. So we hit them hard. We got what we came for, and then we got out. Since January 20th, the U.S. military has terminated 83 terrorist leaders operating across Iraq, Syria, and Somalia, including ISIS's #2 global leader. You read about that just recently. With the help of Pakistan, we apprehended the ISIS terrorists responsible for the attack on 13 American service members at Abbey Gate, that horrible, horrible disaster. During this Afghanistan withdrawal, you know, that's another thing that we don't even think about so much anymore. 13 died, but 42 were horribly wounded. But hundreds of people died overall, because I count the people on the other side. Hundreds of people just grossly incompetent. It's probably why Putin decided to go into Ukraine, something he never would have done if I were president. But we wouldn't have had the problems of October 7th if I were president. We wouldn't have had Ukraine, Russia if I were president. We wouldn't have had Abbey Gate, because there wouldn't have been any reason we were getting out, but we were getting out with dignity and with strength and power. But the way they got out was not good. I think it was the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And we've been working tirelessly to bring back all hostages held by Hamas. We brought back a lot already, but we're bringing back more. This weekend, we successfully negotiated the release of the last American hostage, Edan Alexander. Just came out a few hours ago, and we continue to work to get that war ended as quickly as possible. It's a horrible thing that's taking place. All civilized people must condemn the October 7th atrocities against Israel, which would never have happened again if you had probably a different president, but definitely if you had me as president. The people of Gaza deserve a much better future, but that will or can not occur as long as their leaders choose to kidnap, torture, and target innocent men, women, and children for political ends. The way those people are treated in Gaza, there's not a place in the world where people are treated so badly. It's horrible. After years of suffering, two of the nations most ravaged by terror are finally beginning to end their long nightmares under the new generation of leaders in Lebanon, where a friend of mine has just become the ambassador. He's going to be great. I said, you know, that could be a very dangerous job. He said, I was born there. I'm Lebanese. I love that country. I said, but it's very dangerous. You know, this is a friend of mine from New York. I said, but it's very dangerous. Are you sure you want to do it? I never thought of him as being a warrior, but he is a warrior. He loves his country. He said, if I'm injured or die, I'm dying for a country that I love. He grew up there. It's horrible what's happened in Lebanon, but you have a great ambassador, I can tell you that. In Lebanon, which has been endlessly victimized by Hezbollah and their sponsor, Iran, a new president and prime minister brought the first real chance in decades for a more productive partnership with the United States, and we're going to work with their new ambassador and everybody else, Marco, and we're going to see if we can really help them out and let them get over that very high grid that they're going to have to get over. My administration stands ready to help Lebanon create a future of economic development and peace with its neighbors. They have tremendous people in Lebanon, doctors, lawyers, great professional people. I hear it so many times. Likewise in Syria, which has seen so much misery and death, there is a new government that will hopefully succeed in stabilizing the country and keeping peace. That's what we want to see in Syria. They've had their share of travesty, war, killing, many years. That's why my administration has already taken the first steps toward restoring normal relations between the United States and Syria for the first time in more than a decade. And I'm very pleased to announce that Secretary Marco Rubio will be meeting with the new Syrian foreign minister in Turkey later this week, and very importantly, after discussing the situation in Syria with the Crown Prince, your Crown Prince, and also with President Erdogan of Turkey, who called me the other day and asked for a very similar thing, among others, and friends of mine, people that I have a lot of respect for in the Middle East. I will be ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria in order to give them a chance at greatness. Oh, what I do for the Crown Prince. The sanctions were brutal and crippling and served as an important function, nevertheless, at the time, but now it's their time to shine. It's their time to shine. We're taking them all off, and they're going to have, I think they're going to have, based on the people and the spirit and everything else that I'm hearing about. So I say, good luck, Syria. Show us something very special like they've done, frankly, in Saudi Arabia, okay? They're going to show us something special. Very good people. Everywhere we can, my administration is pursuing peaceful engagement, offering a strong and steady hand of friendship to all that will take it in good faith. Together, we have made unprecedented strides and tremendous progress, and we're still just at the dawn of the bright new day that awaits for the people of the Middle East, the great, great people of the Middle East. If the responsible nations of this region seize this moment, put aside your differences and focus on the interests that unite you, then all of humanity will soon be amazed at what they will see right here in this geographic center of the world. It really is. It's like a center of the world and the spiritual heart of its greatest faiths. For the first time in 1,000 years, the world will look at this region not as a place of turmoil and strife and war and death, but as a land of opportunity and hope, just like you've done right here, a cultural and commercial crossroads of the planet. Security and stability will lift millions into lives of safety and success, and the nations of this region will be free to realize your highest destinies, honor your proud histories, harness amazing new opportunities, and bring incredible glory to Almighty God. People will come from all over the globe to be inspired by the cities you build, the businesses you create, the technologies you invent, and the beauty, talent, and potential you unleash right in the hearts of your citizens. Each of you will be able to take tremendous pride in the legacy you will leave to your children, because you will have given them the ultimate blessings of prosperity and peace. So important. In the United States, we've launched the golden age of America. It's the golden age. We see it. We see it with all that money, trillions and trillions of dollars pouring in, hundreds of thousands of jobs coming in with it. And with the help of the people of the Middle East, people in this room, partners throughout the region, the golden age of the Middle East can proceed right alongside of us. We will work together. We will be together. We will succeed together. We will win together. And we will always be friends. Thank you. So, Mohammed, I want to thank you again very much for having me. And as a representative of what I think is the greatest nation in the world, we are with you all the way, and you have a tremendous future. Thank you very much. And please pay my respects to your father. Thank you very much. Thank you.
And there you have it, President Trump delivering remarks at the Saudi-U.S. Investment Forum, speaking for about an hour and a half, talking about the important relationship between Saudi Arabia and the United States as they continue to strengthen the relationship between the two countries. He earlier signed a number of agreements with Saudi Arabia, kicking off a 4-day Middle East trip with a focus on deal-making with Saudi Arabia. Also, as we were just hearing live there, concerns about Iran's nuclear program, vowing that Iran will never obtain nuclear power. Talking about a number of other issues and specifically calling out Secretary of State
Your guy is taking the perfect shot. First, you need to dress for success and make sure you bring the right equipment. Then grip it and grip it.
It's our family had very difficult night. One of the biggest attacks from the very beginning of this war.
Canada has committed billions to help Ukraine's military in its fight against Russia. This after getting praise for a pledge to arm its own military.
The fact that you decided to bring Canada to the 2% spending when it comes to NATO this year is really fantastic.
And look forward to defining those new responsibilities and capabilities. But any hopes for more FaceTime with the U.S. president are dashed as Donald Trump leaves the summit for the Situation Room.
Remember, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. Look at it better than ceasefire. We're not looking for a ceasefire.
We have a lot on the go today. Just ahead, an exclusive interview with the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte. And next hour, we'll bring you live to the G7 Summit closing press conference with Prime Minister Mark Carney. So let's get to it. As Power and Politics starts right now. As tensions escalate in Iran, Israel, and Ukraine put an increased focus on defense at this G7 summit, Prime Minister Mark Carney had a one-on-one meeting with NATO's Secretary General this morning. It's been only 1 week since Carney announced plans to meet NATO's 2% of GDP defense spending target by March. And today, Carney's office said he told Mark Rutte about his plan for accelerating those investments in the years to come. Mark Rutte is the Secretary General of NATO, and he joins me now. Secretary General, it's good to see you. Thank you, sir.
Pleasure to be on the program.
I saw in your conversation with Prime Minister Mark Carney today, you praised Canada for finally developing a plan to get to the 2%. Some of that including capacity for things like the Coast Guard. So I'm wondering what new support that truly brings to the alliance with this target finally being met.
Well, this is really a big announcement. Let's not underestimate it. It means that Canada will reach 2% this year, which is great news because it was originally foreseen after 2030. Last week, Portugal also announced it will reach 2% this year, and by Portugal also making that announcement, we now have the whole of the alliance, all 32 countries, the whole of the alliance at 2% before the summit in The Hague next week. Whilst at the beginning of the year, we had still 8 countries not making the 2%. So this is really great news.
Well, Canada is getting there 11 years after making the commitment and just before it's going to rise. 3.5% of GDP on direct spending and maybe another 1.5% on other spending, a total of 5% of GDP. How confident are you Canada can hit that likely new target, and what assurance did you get from the Prime Minister on that?
Yes, well, I'm fairly confident that Canada and the whole of the alliance can do this. It is important because we have to protect ourselves against our adversaries, so like Russia, but also China, which is increasingly building up its armed forces. So we have to make sure we have what we need to defend ourselves. And with the 2%, we simply cannot going forward defend ourselves. Yes, today, but not in 3 to 5 years. So therefore, we have to ramp up the defense spending. And we will come to a decision next week in The Hague. I'm fairly confident we will get there.
You said recently, Secretary General, that you thought that within 5 years, Russia would be able to launch an attack against NATO countries, either in Eastern Europe or elsewhere. Do you think that is their intention to do that within 5 years, or they just might have the capacity to do that within 5 years?
It's very difficult to exactly get into the head of Vladimir Putin. I stopped a long time ago to do that. But clearly we have to be ready for every eventuality. We know that China is building up its armed forces. They're not doing that only for the parades in Beijing. They want to do something with all those ships and fighter jets, etc. We know the direct threat, of course, there is China towards Taiwan and the wider Indo-Pacific. And we know, of course, what Putin, as we speak, is doing in Ukraine last night. Again, targeting innocent civilians in Kiev. Many people dying, many more people seriously wounded. So this is continuing. So we have to stand prepared to make sure that our deterrence is such that he will never ever try to attack us.
So on the Ukraine-Russia conflict, just for a second there, Secretary General, the drone strike, the drone attack that Ukraine launched against the strategic bomber fleet of Russia took out about 40% of its capacity, I believe. Obviously good news in this conflict, good news for NATO, but how quickly do you think Russia can replenish that and rebuild?
Well, of course, this was a very important development 2 weeks ago, and we all applaud what Ukraine did on that Sunday, which was well prepared, in total secrecy for many months. So this was a big operation hitting at Russia's capability to, again, target innocent civilians in cities and communities inside Ukraine. So they are absolutely absolutely justifiable targets. It is difficult to exactly assess how long it will take for the Russians to reconstitute that particular base of capabilities. But no doubt they will try to do that. But this is a significant hit at Russia's capabilities to target innocent civilians in Ukraine.
You mentioned the attacks on Kyiv directly. Russia always seems to do this, whether it's a G7 summit or a NATO summit. They accelerate actions and targeting often of civilian infrastructure. We saw Canada announce today an extra $2 billion in military support for Ukraine, a $2.3 billion loan for broader governmental support. I just wonder what your thoughts are, sir, on the overall level of support Ukraine has at this point in the conflict, especially with the changing nature of things in the United States.
No, clearly the Allies are committed to continue supplying Ukraine with what they need. So over the first 3 months of this year, it was about 20 billion euros, so about 23, 24 billion US dollars being pledged for Ukraine. And that is a bigger amount than last year over the same 3 months. So we are really maintaining that level of support. And Canada, indeed, is absolutely stepping up here and doing a lot to support Ukraine. And you're also leading the 4th Land Force in Latvia. So Canada is providing a lot of support to NATO generally, but also particularly when it comes to keeping Ukraine in the fight.
What's your sense of where things stand with the United States right now, Secretary General? Donald Trump left the summit without meeting with you, without meeting with President Zelensky. Did the U.S. officials give you any reassurance on their commitment to NATO and their commitment to Ukraine at the summit?
Absolutely. I've spoken so many times now with President Trump, and of course he will be at the NATO summit next week. We will have ample time to sit down. There was no meeting foreseen at this meeting between me and President Trump because we will meet each other extensively next week. President Trump and the US is completely committed to NATO, completely committed to Article 5. The attack on one is an attack on all clause in the NATO articles of the Washington Treaty. So there is no doubt. But what they do expect, of course, is for the allies outside the US to step up in terms of defense spending, to equalize with what the US is spending. And we have to do that because to reach these targets, our capability targets, we have to bring it up to about 3.5%, which at the same time will equalize the spending in Canada and in Europe with the United States. So that creates a stronger, a more equal, a more strongly based alliance going forward.
But the defense of Ukraine itself, sir, what are your thoughts on where the United States is on this? Because there is another conflict that they may become embroiled in, or that's brewing today between Israel and Iran. What's your sense of just how committed the Trump administration is right now to President Zelensky and his people's cause?
I believe they are. We have seen President Trump breaking the deadlock with President Putin by starting these direct talks. I think that was particularly important because it has to be the United States, being such a powerful ally, to have those direct talks with the Russian president. So I applaud that. I commend him for this. And obviously we all want this to go faster, but this always takes time. It is a step-by-step approach. But I really sense in my conversation with President Trump that he is totally committed to bring the fight in Ukraine, this unprovoked war of aggression by the Russians against Ukraine, to a durable, towards a lasting peace, by which the Russians will never try to attack Ukraine again in the future.
So, Secretary General, I know you have to go, but if I can indulge you for just one more question. President Trump left this summit. He's in the Situation Room in Washington, monitoring what's happening between Israel and Iran. There is reporting suggesting America might be prepared to join the war or play a direct role in this conflict. What are your thoughts on the possibility of a core key NATO member potentially getting involved in the war between Israel and Iran directly?
Well, as you know, NATO concentrates on the Euro-Atlantic. So the current situation between Israel and Iran is not part of what NATO is working on, but individual allies are navigating this crisis, including the United States. This is a rapidly developing situation. So I'm a bit hesitant to comment on that, and let's await the situation over the next 24 and 48 hours.
Okay. And Secretary General, Canada is getting ready, it looks like, to join the Rearm Europe initiative. What are your thoughts on what that would mean for the NATO alliance?
Well, I think everything which helps for Canada, the Europeans and the US to, one, make sure that we spend on the right stuff. Secondly, to really develop the defense industrial base in the US, in Canada, in Europe, I applaud that. So every initiative leading towards that direction has my full support.
Okay, Secretary General Mark Rutte, we appreciate your time on a very busy day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
And hope to see you next week. Bye-bye. Take care.
Okay, since we did that interview with the Secretary General, we have learned that the G7 will not be issuing a unanimous statement on the war between Russia and Ukraine. The reason for that is that the Americans objected to the stronger language that the other countries wanted to put in that communique, because the U.S., of course, is in the middle of a peace process, was trying to broker a peace between Russia and Ukraine, and it wanted to water down some of the language that the other G7 nations wanted in it. Prime Minister Mark Carney, as the chair of the G7, is exercising his discretion to use the tougher language in a separate statement from the chair that will come out later today, and of course we'll hear from the Prime Minister directly next hour. Prime Minister Mark Carney will also announce new supports for Ukraine today, hours after Russia launched its deadliest assault on Kyiv in almost a year. And that's where we're going to start with our panel that's coming up next. Is one of the many world leaders gathered in the Rockies. They are meeting as the world faces escalating conflicts on multiple fronts. And to help make sense of it all, three experts in politics and geopolitics are joining me this hour. Bina Najibullah is Vice President of Research and Strategy at the Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada. Arif Lalani is a former Canadian ambassador to Jordan, Iraq, Afghanistan, and the United Arab Emirates. And Brian Clow is a former Deputy Chief of Staff to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who worked a lot on the Canada-US file in particular. It's good to see you all. Brian, I want to start with you if I can. I mean, the military aid and the financial support for Ukraine, not a big surprise to see that come from Prime Minister Mark Carney, but the news we have late today is no joint statement on Ukraine because the U.S. wanted to hold back the language. So there is no communique on that, and Mark Carney is going to use stronger language in his chair statement when he speaks. What do you make of the inability to get consensus on this conflict here?
Well, to a large extent, it's not a surprise because Donald Trump has been clear that he is not aligned with the rest of the G7 when it comes to Ukraine. And he made that clear again yesterday when he chose to, alongside Mark Carney, not agreeing with Mark Carney, but standing next to Mark Carney. He went on and on about why he thought Putin should be at the G7, which I think is a bit absurd. Donald Trump made it clear that he wanted this war to end on day one. He actually told Justin Trudeau that before he took office, that he expected this war to be done on day one. Good if the war can end, but not if it means Ukraine surrenders to Putin's demands.
Yeah, it's perhaps not a surprise that there's no unanimity when sort of the opening remarks from the president was lamenting the absence of Vladimir Putin, right? I mean, what do you make of this and what it may mean?
I think absolutely it's not a surprise, and it's good that Prime Minister Carney is moving ahead with a stronger chair statement. I think it was also important for President Zelensky to be present at the G7 and to meet with other leaders, including the outreach partners that were invited. I noted that he had discussions also with the Indian Prime Minister. He also had strong discussions with the Japan Prime Minister, who he normally doesn't see because obviously President Zelensky interacts quite a bit with NATO leaders. So I think it was important to have democratic solidarity from Japan and others, and for him to be able to make the case to India in particular, who will be meeting with President Putin. Prime Minister Modi will be meeting with Putin in short order.
Arif, what's your sense on this one?
Well, look, I think they did the best they could. Everybody knew that there wouldn't be unanimity, but I think the challenge is coming in a couple of weeks. It's okay for the G7 to do this, but when you go to the NATO alliance meeting, the alliance has to show that it is actually united, and that has to include the United States. So I think they've kind of punted this forward, but there's going to have to be a lot of discussion in the coming weeks to see how it lines up with NATO.
So Arif, like, what kind of work do you need to do between now and when they gather in The Hague for that NATO summit? Because there's a series of international summits coming up over the next couple of weeks in Europe. The NATO summit's going to be ostensibly about getting a new spending target of 3.5% plus on top of that. I mean, how do you take steps between now and then to try to get the U.S. in line with everybody else?
Well, I think there's a couple of ways you can do this. I mean, one is kind of the way Prime Minister Carney did it bilaterally on India, which is to take care of a number of issues on their own ahead of the summit. So everybody knows the positions, do what you can separately, and then at the summit, there's I think less to deal with. Or the other way is to have some kind of a much more watered down statement, or you have to have officials working to come to some agreement on what language can be interpreted. Often when we negotiate these things, we'll walk away saying, well, country X is going to interpret this word in one way and it's okay for us, and country X is going to interpret the same word in a different way. So I think there's some work officials can do to come out
all across America. Wherever we are, it feels like home. GMA, it's an invitation to come together and brighten your morning.
Los grandes sabores vienen en paquetes pequeños.
The structured motorized pergola system is reinventing the way homeowners experience the outdoors. The most versatile, modern, useful outdoor patio space ever designed. It creates the perfect blend of sun, shade, and shelter at all times so you can still enjoy time outdoors, even if it rains, is windy, or the sun is out. With the structured motorized pergola, your family now enjoys quality time together in the fresh air, sun, and perfect amount of shade. See what Victoria has to say.
So we love our structured patio cover because it feels very much like an extension to our home. It doesn't feel like a patio, it feels like a living room, which is exactly what we wanted. We spend a lot of time out here as a family. My daughter wants to watch TV out here every single day. We're barbecuing out here. I actually work from home a lot, and so I spend a lot of time out here working, but it just feels like our house just got bigger because now we have this extended space. We are extremely satisfied with the quality, the design. We get compliments on it. Every time anyone walks back here, they're like, whoa, because it feels almost like we're in a commercial space. In terms of the quality elements of the louvered patio cover, I think that we really appreciate are just things like having electric wired through. We have a ceiling fan, we have a gas heater, we have lighting. It really feels like a room. We call this our living room, our outdoor living room. It's not just a cover. It has the ability to open, let light in, but also gives us really fun, elements for nighttime as well, like lighting and heat. I think the design was the first piece, and then also just the very warm, friendly customer service that we got. I will also say that they went over and beyond our expectations in terms of the quality, the design, but also some extras to make this space really feel like our vision.
Are you ready to reimagine the way you experience the outdoors with structure? Reach out to us today. We would love to help answer any of your questions.
Some kind of a unified statement, but as always with, I think, the Trump administration, it's going to be unpredictable even during the meeting.
Well, you know, Brian, you've had experience with Trump 1 and Trump 2 in your various roles in government. I mean, what's your thoughts on that, whether it is even likely that you can get Donald Trump to move into an area where he's aligned with the G7 partners and the rest of NATO, because they are kind of going their own way on this. They have gotten NATO to at least get to the 2% target, but on the actual use of the alliance and the purpose of the alliance, there's still these disagreements.
Yeah, as with many things with Donald Trump, it is a real challenge with the NATO summit coming up. And I think the goal there is the same as the goal at this G7 summit. It is survival, minimize the amount of disagreement, but fully recognizing the prospect of full unity on every issue, particularly Ukraine-Russia, is going to be very difficult with Donald Trump in the room.
Okay, on the 2% though, we heard from Mark Rutte earlier, and Brian, start with you on this. You know, it was a week or so ago that the Prime Minister, you know, announced the plan to accelerate things getting to 2%, and now the Secretary General says he's pleased with that because for the first time ever, all the members of the alliance at least have a plan to get to that spending floor. But now they want it to go to 3.5. Do you see a path where that's an easy thing for Canada to do?
Well, first off, it was a very big step for Prime Minister Carney to make the announcement he did. I think it's a good thing, and part of the reason he was able to do it is things changed in this country after the president's re-election and the threats against our sovereignty. And a lot more Canadians became supportive of such a big move, such a big expenditure. So getting to 2%, a big deal. Executing on that, it's going to be a challenge in the short term. Beyond that, the Canadians will have to examine any new target that's agreed to. But in the short term, Prime Minister Carney needs to try to get recognition from NATO allies for the big step that he just took.
Dina, what are your thoughts there? I mean, getting it to 2% is $60 billion a year. Getting it to 3.5, you're at $100 billion, you know, plus getting it to 5%, with the extra things that they wanted to add on, we're talking a whole lot more, right? It's a difficult thing to do, but maybe a necessary thing to do. What are your thoughts on where this may go on the defense spending side?
I think it was absolutely critical for Prime Minister Carney to make the announcement, both in the lead up to this G7 meeting, to be in the room with President Trump and others, and also in the lead up to the NATO summit. So we've made the announcement, there is some creative accounting, moving things around, Coast Guard and such. I think the critical issue is going to be, can we spend on procurement in particular? It's one thing to be able to raise salaries and the things that we can do, but there are a number of issues around the defense industrial base that would need to be addressed for us to be able to sustainably spend 2% and get up to 3.5% over time. And I think it'll be critical not only to do stuff with Europe, I think we said we'll rearm Europe, which is great, but we need to deepen partnerships with Korea and Japan and Australia in particular. And I think that's why it was important to have Prime Minister Albanese and President Lee at this G7 to begin those security and defense conversations with others, because we'll have to partner with them to be able to build the platforms we need, to buy the things that we need, and to spend the money, even if we find ways to sacrifice and allocate up to 3.5% in some future time.
So Arif, I just wanted to close the loop on this and bring it back to Ukraine. I mean, where do you think President Zelensky is as he gets ready to leave this summit? He came here, he never got a meeting with President Trump because, you know, he left to go back to Washington to deal with what's happening between Israel and Iran. And you have this mixed language coming out with a different view on things. I mean, how secure do you think Ukraine should feel at this point based on how things evolved here in Kananaskis?
I think he probably came away with the best that he could. I think President Zelensky really needs to count on the Europeans to do the heavy lifting for him with the Americans. And so I think the Europeans really need to lead the way and bring the Americans along. So I think that's a really important point. And I agree also with Bina that I think it's really important for President Zelensky to have met some of the other leaders outside of the G7 and outside of NATO to get that support. But like many other countries, you know, you're really kind of seeing a world where the superpower is almost kind of what I call a shrugging superpower. You know, it's kind of observing, it's taking opportunity where it can, but strategy and execution, it seems to be very, very unpredictable for everybody.
Okay, while we're speaking, Vina, I'd like to start with you on this. Prime Minister Mark Carney is having this one-on-one with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Our expectation had been just before showtime that this meeting was going to happen later, after the Prime Minister had his press conference. Things are fluid at these summits. It got moved up, it accelerated, they've had their meeting. We're going to get the tape of their initial exchange in just a second, but Vina, like, what's your sense of what Mark Carney needs from this? We talked in the past on this show about the controversies surrounding inviting the Prime Minister of India, given the transnational repression ongoing in this country. What needs to come out of this for Mark Carney to be able to look at the people who's upset with this and say it was worth it?
I think it's going to be a critical meeting. Obviously, the handshake that happened earlier today will be important in setting the tone for the meeting that's taking place now. Prime Minister Carney would need some kind of a signal that India is willing to cooperate on law enforcement issues. He said that after the phone call that he had with Prime Minister Modi. Now it'll be interesting to see what that cooperation looks like. Is there going to be some kind of an expanded mechanism to deal with this issue? Is there going to be language coming out of the statement, particularly from Prime Minister Modi? Because I think we know for sure that Prime Minister Carney is going to say that these issues of transnational repression and law enforcement in the case of Niger were raised, but what comes out from Prime Minister Modi is going to be critical. But then more broadly, this is just the first step in rebuilding the relationship. You can't remove all grievances with one handshake or one meeting. There's going to be a long road ahead in the lead up to the G20. So these two leaders will have another chance to meet in September at the G20, and I'll be watching to see what happens between now and then at the level of exchange of high commissioners or restarting of trade negotiations to justify the meeting that just took place.
Okay, we'll dive more into that in just a second, but first I want to show you the clip because Prime Minister Mark Carney, this is him greeting Prime Minister of India Narendra Modi as they met in Kananaskis just a few minutes ago. Let's take a look at that.
Good. May I say, Excellency Prime Minister, it's a great honor to host you at the G7. India has been coming to the G7, I believe, since 2018 in Biarritz with our French partners, and it's a testament to the importance of your country, to your leadership, and to the importance of the issues that we look to tackle together. From energy security, from the energy transition that you're helping to lead, to the future of artificial intelligence, to the fight that we have against transnational repression, against terrorism, against other factors, and the work that we can do together. And it is my great honor to have you here. I enjoyed your intervention just now, and we look forward to our discussion.
Excellency, thank you for inviting me to attend the G7 summit. And I'm very happy to get this opportunity to come and visit the soil of Canada after 2015 and to be in touch with the people of Canada. India is the largest democracy in the world. During our chair of the G20 summit, we took many initiatives for the welfare of the world. And today, we are extending that resolve through the G7 summit and going to execute it through the help of this platform as well. So I think that this is a great opportunity for us to serve public good, the global goods. It has always been India's intention to promote global goods, and today through G7 we have that same opportunity. I believe that India-Canada relations are extremely important, and India and Canada should work together and achieve win-win cooperation in several areas. Canadian companies have invested in India in a big way. Indian people have also invested in Canada in a big way. We both stand for democratic values. Together, we can strengthen democratic values. We can strengthen humanity. If we work together, optimally utilize all our resources, we can work for the welfare of the entire humanity. And I'm extremely confident that we'll be able to do this task. Excellency, congratulations on a grand victory on this election, and I'm sure under your leadership, we will be able to work together in a positive way and take India-Canada relationship forward.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, and Prime Minister Mark Carney. That was not an amazing feat of ventriloquism by the Prime Minister of India. That was his interpreter speaking just off screen, translating Narendra Modi's remarks into English. Brian, I'm just wondering, look, these things are always filled with praise and platitudes, but this relationship is not one that is filled with praise and platitudes. I just wonder what you make of what we saw there, what we heard there.
Two thoughts. One, there is rightly a fair amount of concern from some Canadians about this invitation, given what the Indian government is alleged to have been a part of and perhaps even supportive of. But, and you're going to see a pattern in many of my comments, Donald Trump changed everything with his threats against our sovereignty. And clearly Mark Carney has assessed that it is a priority to rebuild links with key countries around the world where the relationship was strained. But secondly, I would say if Mark Carney can extract a commitment from the Indian government to cooperate with the investigations, that would be a major development, and I'd say if that happens, it would make the invitation worth it.
Well, Brian, you were working in Prime Minister Trudeau's office when that remarkable moment in the House of Commons happened, when Justin Trudeau revealed what they were aware of, and again, Thanksgiving Monday last year when the RCMP revealed certain things. I know there are limits to what you can say, but this notion of getting cooperation, I mean, in your experience, what is your sense of how willing and likely it is to see India move in a meaningful way on that?
It's going to be a challenge, and the evidence of that is the fact that we did not experience the cooperation that was wanted since those terrible events in 2023. But with a new Prime Minister, with this invitation here, I think there is an opportunity for a fresh start, and I'm hopeful that the Prime Minister Carney can extract certain commitments.
Arif, what are your thoughts on that? Obviously, they're going to be very friendly publicly. We won't know at all or for some time on how it went specifically behind closed doors, but what do you make of what we saw there?
Well, I think what you're seeing, though, is a very different tone and a very different approach, right? It's a very mature, adult exchange. And I've been in the room when, amongst leaders, you can have a very candid exchange. And I think that there is a candid exchange that can be had to address each country's concerns. We clearly have a concern that's around law and enforcement and cooperation with our investigation. They have, for decades, clearly had a concern about intelligence and counterterrorism and us taking that seriously. And then third, I think there's an element of how you address each other publicly. So certainly the first part is being tackled. I think the law enforcement and intelligence part was also tackled before with some announcement that India and Canada were going to cooperate. So I think they're on the right track. And it seems to me, watching the two leaders, it's a very different exchange. And I think it's an exchange which can be quite candid in private.
Veena, your thoughts on that, then we're going to take a quick break.
I think this meeting is building on a successful phone call. It's building on what we're hearing from the RCMP here, that India is beginning to cooperate. So both leaders framed the meeting in terms of multilateral significance of each other, so both of G7, but also of India as a rising power. I think the discussions probably will be framed on issues of transnational repression and terrorism. I noted that Prime Minister Carney added that because that has been India's concern. So as long as this can be approached from a perspective of both countries have serious concerns, but both countries also have interest in cooperating. We need each other to be able to reduce over-reliance on the US. both for India and for Canada, that's a priority. We need each other to make our Indo-Pacific strategies a success and deal with challenges emanating from China. And ultimately, even for people-to-people ties, there are many Canadians who want the relationship with India to be improved, Indo-Canadians who have family and business ties in the country. So I think this will be not an easy situation. There will be still many challenges ahead, but this is a great start to rebuilding a relationship that has been on ice for too long.
Okay, we're going to pause that there for a second. Look, let people at home know about a change in things here. We were expecting to hear from Prime Minister Mark Carney next hour, the second hour of the show. There's a delay. We're waiting to get some absolute clarity on that. We'll let you know. But in the meantime, we'll continue to cover the big issues here at the G7 summit because Canada and the U.S. have agreed to set a 30-day timer and try to reach a new trade deal before that clock runs out. Up next, new details on how that was decided and what the accelerated talks will look like. Katie Simpson's going to be here. Stay with me. U.S. President Donald Trump may have left the G7 summit early, but he left Canada with some hope of a new economic and security deal. Trump and Prime Minister Mark Carney agreed to aim for a new agreement within 30 days. That sets the deadline for July 16th. But speaking last night from Air Force One, Trump was asked about negotiations with Canada.
They're gonna have to pay a lot of tariffs and things. They're gonna have to pay a lot of money for the dome, for the Iron Dome. They want to be a part of it. So we may make a separate deal on that, by the way. We discussed it, yeah, by the dome. We'll make a separate deal. They want to be at 71 billion. They're gonna pay. There could be a dome next separate from the They'll be in the dome. They'll be under the dome.
Okay, the CBC's Katie Simpson is here with me in Banff, under the Banff Dome, Katie, not the Iron Dome, Golden Dome. Look,
Not yet, anyway.
the 30-day timeline of the president, you know, as he flies away, still talking about tariffs and how wonderful they are. I mean, how promising is this 30-day window?
Well, here's the thing. What we are learning from sources between myself and our wonderful colleague Louis Blouin over at Radio Canada, we understand that this 30-day deadline is a way for Canada to try to put some pressure on the Americans to try to get things across the finish line in a timely fashion. By putting it out there on the record, in writing, the hope is that it will push things a little bit further. However, one senior Canadian government source speaking to me says, listen, the Prime Minister wouldn't have said this, wouldn't have done this if he didn't think it was actually possible that something like this could be achieved. So it is about building pressure. What my colleague Louis Blouin has been told is that, you know, the Canadian, and I've heard this as well, that Canadians, they keep going to these meetings. They've been happening almost on a weekly basis between the Canadian ambassador, Kirsten Hillman, and American officials. Donald LeBlanc, the minister involved in Canada-US trade, he's involved in all of this as well. But essentially what we understand is happening is that the Canadians are going in with detailed, specific proposals, you know, ready to say this is how a deal could look, this is how it could work. And then it's typically received well by the Americans, but then the Americans don't respond in kind. They're not bringing back the specific proposals that they're ready to work with or anything like that. And it sort of is at this point where I'm told by a source that the Canadians want to get those T's crossed, those I's dotted, and get this moving forward. And the hope is that date, that 30-day deadline, is going to help push this further.
Okay, so it's like a group project where only one side is doing their shit, right? All right, so T's and I's, cancel tariffs without either. How do things unfold from here? We're told meetings this week, but you know, I think Donald LeBlanc's on his way back to Ottawa and different things like, what's next?
Well, some Americans did stay behind, even though Donald Trump went back, but largely it is expected that they were dealing with all of the other meetings that Donald Trump was supposed to attend and participate in, which did not happen because Donald Trump left. So that's one aspect of it. There had been hope that possibly there's going to be another meeting between the Canadians and the Americans on Friday to try and sort of, you know, push ahead with the framework. But really, this is going to require, it takes two to tango, right? And so this is going to, if the Canadians are coming forward with these proposals, like we are understanding from senior Canadian government sources, they need to see some progress from the Americans, at least at this point. By putting that, you know, sort of timeline, like meet, pass or fail moment here, you know, it sort of sets up for this, okay, you know, we tried or whatever it's going to be. They're going to have to figure out, do they retaliate with you know, tariffs because the tariffs on steel and aluminum went? What is Canada going to do? So it puts things on a track to either have a pass or fail moment in 30 days, and it apparently is something the Canadians feel they need to have in order to push it ahead.
So just as a final point, I mean, you know, I look at this two ways. Like Mark Carney, yeah, putting the 30-day timeline out there in written form in a statement from the Prime Minister's office. He's not a Prime Minister at this point that seems interested in just gestures, right? So confidence there, or is it just frustration? And this is a line in the sand that it's time to get this over and done with, and then we start the retaliation, or is it both?
I think it's two things can be true at the same time, and that was sort of what has been stressed to me and Louis Blouin, is that look, they want to push for these things, and they think it can be achievable. At the same time, they need to sort of needle things along and say, listen, are we going to meet this deadline and try and pressure the Americans into getting something there? So the other thing is, though, as much as these conversations are going on at lower levels, you know, with Howard Lutnick and Jameson Greer, who's in charge of trade, all these conversations that are happening, it's ultimately up to Donald Trump. And Donald Trump, again, at this summit, talking about how he's a tariff person. He thinks they're simple. It's a whole philosophy for him. So really, at this point, it's about trying to convince a guy who has, you know, hooked a large part of his economic foreign policy to this idea that this idea is bad.
Yeah, and mercantilism is back. Okay, Katie, thanks so much. This is CBC's Katie Simpson here with me in Beth. We're going to get some reaction on this. Go back to our panel here, Avina Najibullah, Arif Lalani, and Brian Clow. And Brian, look, you played a pretty key role. You were in the middle of a lot of things in the first Trump negotiation, so you've got, the best real-time experience on this. What do you make of this 30-day deadline, what we saw yesterday, and what we've heard since, and where this leaves the state of these conversations to try to get these tariffs gone?
Well, first, this does remind me of 2018, 2019, when we were in intense, ongoing discussions with the Americans over NAFTA, but also steel and aluminum. And there were times where we thought we were close to a deal, but we got stuck on one or more issues. And clearly that has happened here. I think both the Americans and Canadians came into this G7 wanting some sort of agreement, but clearly they didn't get there because it appears to me that there are two sticking points. One, the Americans have not yet signaled that they're prepared to return tariff levels to where they were in January before Trump took office. And secondly, the Americans are asking for so many concessions from the Canadians that the Canadians are saying, that's too much. So these talks will continue. The 30-day timeline is a good thing to force further discussion. Where I disagree with a lot of the initial observations of yesterday's announcements of the timeline, the 30-day timeline, is I think a lot of people saw that as, okay, we will have a deal in 30 days. Well, not if we don't overcome these disagreements. And I think it's very much a possibility that in 30 days, both sides say, look, we're not done yet, we're going to keep talking. Final comment on this is the challenge for that. Canada has leverage here, but has some real problems. The leverage comes from the fact that the country and our economy, broadly speaking, is weathering the Trump storm. We have the lowest average tariff rate of any country in the world, but we have a few sectors, steel, aluminum, auto, and lumber, that are just getting hammered. And lumber tariffs are actually set to go up in the fall if those aren't resolved. So the Canadians, this is why they're motivated to try to get to a deal, but I'm sure Mark Carney's not just going to accept a bad deal.
No, and it's certainly not the impression we got, but just trying to follow up, I have for you. The dynamic Katie described, that the Canadians are going there with these detailed proposals to try to move past this, and nothing is coming back. Was that your experience in dealing with the Americans the first time around, or is this sort of new and unique to this particular iteration of the Trump administration?
There would be periods in the first Trump term where the negotiation was like that. We would go in with our professional negotiators led by Steve Verheuvel with very detailed, concrete proposals. The Americans not always on the same page and not always ready to engage on that same level of detail.
Okay. Vina, what are your thoughts on this? Should we be optimistic about the 30 days, or as Brian lays it out pretty clearly, there are some big outstanding issues and at times, as Katie says, a not as engaged partner as you would like to see?
It's going to be challenging. It's good to have a deadline, but I think we have to see this also in contrast to how other countries are doing. In particular, apart from the UK, there have been no other deals. For this particular meeting, I think Japan was really hoping. They've had a number of rounds of meetings and were hoping to get something done. And of course, they didn't. Same thing is true for Korea. Same thing is true for India. So Canada, we're in a challenging situation, but in comparison to others, short of the UK, we're doing relatively well. And of course, we'll need to continue to push and not to concede on things that are just red lines for us. And I think in some ways, we also need to see where things end up between the US and China. I mean, the truce that they have can fall apart. This is sort of a one day on, next day off situation, and it will have ramifications for the kind of deals that we make with the Americans as well.
Arif, your thoughts?
Look, I think sometimes what you see in these negotiations that don't seem to go anywhere is because one side doesn't really have a mandate. And it may be that on the American side, while the officials wanted to move things along, there really wasn't a decision at a strategic and leader level. So something that has the two leaders saying, look, we want some movement within 30 days, I think helps the officials. And it may have been that the American officials were really looking for something like this one to help them move things along in their own process.
Right, so having that focus, at least in the, because it was interesting how it unfolded yesterday, Arif. There was, we go to these things, there's going to be what you call a press spray, where the two leaders are in the room, and these are meant to be quick, like the Modi one we just showed. But with Donald Trump, he takes so many questions that it goes on for a long period of time, and news happens. But Prime Minister Carney and President Trump met for like close to half an hour in private before the cameras came in, and then they had an extended bilateral meeting after that with more officials, which led to the 30-day timeline. So was that about getting some alignment, do you think, between the Prime Minister and the President to send a consistent signal to the officials, like sort of building on what you were talking about there about getting a mandate for one side of these talks?
I suspect it was. I mean, often they'll say, look, how do you want to handle this? Let's have a common message. So I think that was part of it. It was very interesting to note in their exchange. Again, it was a very polite, friendly exchange between the two leaders. Everyone is always on edge with President Trump in these encounters, but it really did feel like, there's a decision here to at least try and work to get a deal. And I think if I'm on the Canadian side, if that's the mood, I want to try and lock in as much as I can. And so I think that's also, let's see how much we can get done in 30 days.
Right. So Brian, just the way I outlined that sequence, that looked and felt a bit different than what I saw at the various summits I went to with Prime Minister Trudeau. I mean, what do you make of that sort of change in the scheduling there to have a very private, just the two leaders beforehand, before you have your extended meeting with officials and your public component with the media?
I'd have to go back and review, but I'm sure at different summits, perhaps not attached to the formal bilateral, but Justin Trudeau and Donald Trump definitely had some moments of one-on-one time. But look, those one-on-one conversations can often be the most productive, not just on substance, but on relationship building. And clearly, the new Prime Minister is getting off on the right foot in terms of a positive tone in the relationship with Donald Trump. What I would note on that, though, is we've seen it with Donald Trump and his relationships around the world. Positive tone often doesn't get you very far, and ultimately it comes down to substance. I would point out Georgia Maloney, who's in Alberta with you. She was an all-star in the eyes of Republicans, including the people around Donald Trump, and I think Donald Trump himself. But she got slapped with the same reciprocal tariffs that the whole world got slapped with. And I know her team was quite surprised by that when it happened. But what it shows me is positive relationship is a good start, a good foundation, but it's nowhere near what's needed to get to concrete deals.
Well, Vina, on that point, as a final point before we take another break, I mean, the relationship has been getting better between the Prime Minister and the President ever since the Oval Office meeting, but the tariffs have doubled on steel and aluminum in that same time period, right? And while they talk about the 30 days, you mentioned the UK, they did sign something here. Chancellor Merz from Germany has suggested that he thinks they'll be able to settle their tariff issues with the President by the summer. There does seem in the air a desire perhaps by the US to settle some of these things. I mean, is it noise, or should we view that hopefully?
I think, yes, they will try to settle something, but we have to go back to what President Trump said, that he's ultimately a tariff man, and he wants to maintain a certain baseline tariffs, which is really a non-starter for Canada. It's also a non-starter for other allies like Japan on specific sectors. So the reason the Japan tariff deal, for instance, hasn't happened is because of the auto sector and steel and aluminum. So issues which are important for us as well. So it doesn't seem that President Trump believes that any country, whether it's the closest ally like Canada or other allies like NATO or Japan, that they should have some kind of special treatment. He wants a baseline 10% on everyone. That's going to be difficult to move him from. It's the conceptual difference, as the president said himself, right? That he has a certain concept, Prime Minister Carney has a different concept that's a bit broader, more comprehensive. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what we're able to do in the 30 days and how that fits into other things around security and defense as well.
Okay, we're going to take another quick break, but up still to come on the show, the G7 summit will have forged ahead today without U.S. President Donald Trump, and in the shadow of an escalating conflict between Israel and Iran. Coming up, why Trump's early departure could signal to the Middle East and the rest of the world. That's next.
At Grainger, we have over 1 million products, including the ones that help keep your workplace safe and sound. Shop our vast inventory of safety products at Grainger.com. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Looking for the right weight loss treatment for you? Through HERS, you can access personalized weight loss plans and lose up to 20% of your body weight or more with FDA-approved Wegovy at half the price. HERS offers access to a range of trusted weight loss treatments like other injectables and oral medication kits with a holistic approach for results that last. Options start at $69 a month, so you can find a treatment that works for your body and your budget. Find the right weight loss treatment for you. Get started today at forhers.com.
President Donald Trump is fueling speculation the United States may join Israel's military assault against Iran. After leaving the G7 summit a day early, Trump gathered his top security advisors in the Situation Room today. The president is also mobilizing jets and aircraft carriers overseas, and he's demanding Iran surrender. The CBC's Sasha Petrusik joins us now from Washington. So Sasha, there's a fast-moving situation, but we know the meeting in the Situation Room has ended. Any clear indication of what Trump is going to do?
Well, there's a lot that's been going on behind the scenes. Obviously, we don't know the details of what's happened in the Situation Room. Various plans are obviously in the works. We also know that there have been reports here that Donald Trump spoke to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today. So, you know, there's many pieces that are moving around right now. We know that Israel has been pressuring the United States for some time to take a more active role in this conflict between Iran and Israel ever since Israel attacked. And the United States has been reluctant to do that. But we have also seen movement, I suppose, in what Donald Trump has been saying, or at least posting today, starting with a statement that he's looking for something more than a ceasefire in this war between Iran and Israel. That he wants Iran's nuclear program stopped, that they cannot have a nuclear program, and maybe that he wants it destroyed, which is stronger language than we've heard from Trump and from the White House, from the administration, since this war started. Now, that was only 4 days ago, although it may seem like a little bit longer than that. He's had a number of posts, too, which, again, give this idea that he's moving in a direction of American military involvement. He's boasted that
Okay, we just lost Sasha Petrusik. I'm not sure what happened there, but we lost our connection as he was bringing us up to speed. We're going to try to connect with him as soon as we can, because obviously we want to hear the rest of what is happening in the United States. So stay tuned. We're going to get Sasha back. In the meantime, as luck would have it, we have Ashley Burke standing by, and we have some breaking news to bring you from here in the G7. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who traveled to Canada for the summit, is cutting his visit short, it seems. And Ashley Burke has more on this. She joins me now. She's also here in Banff. So Ashley, what's happening here? Why is President Zelensky leaving early?
Well, David, I was down at the summit site in Kananaskis today speaking to the Ukrainian delegations and sources within it, and that's when we learned that President Zelensky, he's going to be getting on his plane and heading back to Kyiv tonight after the talks wrap up. And that was not what was planned. He was supposed to fly to Calgary. He had planned events there, including a press conference. That's all being called off. And the source told me that that's because of two things. One, that deadly attack that happened overnight in the capital in Kyiv, but as well that the program of the G7 changed. So what changed? Well, Donald Trump, he left that summit before Zelensky even arrived on site today. And Zelensky traveled here wanting to sit down and have face-to-face time with Trump. His goal was to push him to move forward with tougher sanctions against Russia and to try and put pressure on Moscow. That didn't happen, and he's going to be leaving tonight without that meeting. You know, you can only imagine how disappointing, upset, and perhaps even mad he could be about that.
Okay, this is not a summit that has gone the way I think a lot of people wanted it to go. Not getting the joint statement on Ukraine. I'm sure that is a frustration to President Zelensky, but not leaving entirely empty-handed, right? So tell us about his morning bilateral with the Prime Minister when he spoke with Mark Carney, and they outlined some more support for President Zelensky and his people.
Yeah, David, he was after that support from the U.S. because it's not the same level. Like, he already has support from Europe and Canada. That would have been an additional level of pressure, but he did get some more support from Canada today. And I was there when Zelensky arrived on site to meet Mark Carney. This was a very somber arrival compared to when the other leaders arrived. Mark Carney put his hand on his shoulder, said something to him that we couldn't hear, and then during that bilat, the Prime Minister came out and really condemned that attack overnight in the capital, calling it barbaric, and said that he was going to be coming forward with more support. That's something Zelensky said he needs right now. He needs allies to step up. Canada announcing a $2 billion package to try and help. And that includes money for everything from ammunition to more drones to armored vehicles, helicopters, and as well another $2 billion they're going to help free up, the government says, in loans from Russian frozen assets. and the new sanctions. So those are some of the measures that Canada's coming forward with. But Zelensky seemed thankful, but he also talked about that he wants there to be a ceasefire. He wants those negotiations with Russia, peace talks to happen, and that's going to involve pressure. And the pressure he was looking for today was from the U.S. And he's leaving as well without a joint statement on the war in Ukraine from G7 leaders. A government source says that's because the U.S. wanted to water down the language when it came to some of the pointed things they wanted to say about Russia over concerns that would affect talks between the U.S. and Russia over trying to end this war.
Okay, Ashley, thank you very much. That's the CBC's Ashley Burke here in Banff at the G7. Okay, we've lost Sasha Petrusik. I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but we're going to bring in our panel to talk about what is happening between the U.S., Iran, and Israel, and the implications for NATO and the rest of the G7. Dina Najibullah, Arif Lalani, and Brian Clow are back now. Arif, I'd like to start with you. I mean, we are seeing reporting from people like Barak Ravid, who's very well connected with the Israeli government and the U.S. government, about the possibility and maybe even the expectation in Israel that the U.S. is getting ready to get into this on the Israeli side against Iran, in particular to deal with the Fordo nuclear facility. We don't know if that's where it's going to go, but what are your thoughts on what's been playing out over the last 4 or 5 days, but especially the last 24 hours with the president here at the G7?
Yeah, look, I think the objectives are clearly much broader than Iran's nuclear program. I think there are probably two big objectives. One is to get to some of the stockpiles of the enriched uranium and the facilities that are buried deep underground. And the Israelis on their own do not have that capability, but the Americans do with their bombers. And so the one decision is, does America get involved with these bunker busting munitions to really get at the nuclear capability? But second, it's very clear that the kind of targeting the Israelis are doing is also aimed at regime change. And we have seen people predicting regime change off and on. I would say, from what I'm hearing from people, that this is probably the weakest this regime has been in the 40-some years that it's in power, and I will not be surprised. I think a question now is, how does this regime end? And there is a chaotic way, which we have seen happen, for example, during the Arab Spring in Libya and elsewhere. And there is one that would require some more global management of the type we haven't seen, which would be for the leader to leave. I mean, we saw that with Assad in Syria, and a much more orderly transition. So I'm not saying it's inevitable, but I think this is the closest we have come in 40 years to seeing this happen.
You know, Dina, it's interesting because, we were talking earlier about the lack of a unanimous statement on Ukraine. There was a G7 leader statement on the recent developments between Israel and Iran. But there was reporting in the Washington Post and other places that they had to scale it back. They had to water it down because, again, the U.S. objected to the idea of calling for Israel to show any kind of restraint and to call for de-escalation. And, we heard from the president on Air Force One last night when President Macron suggested he was returning to work on a ceasefire. He said, no, it's not a ceasefire. It's something better than that. It's an end. That can mean a lot of things. How do you see it?
Absolutely. There was a statement from the G7, but the G7 is not unanimous on this issue. You've heard others, including President Macron, mention that regime change in Iran can be very dangerous because we don't know what's going to come next. We've seen this not go well in Libya, in Iraq, and elsewhere. So the region is very worried about a broader war, but also about a potential destabilization inside Iran itself. We've heard other G7 leaders say the same. They want restraint, they want de-escalation. It's unclear where the U.S. stands. I mean, obviously this whole situation is quite remarkable. This idea that President of the U.S. needs to leave the G7 meeting to be able to handle the situation rather than to coordinate with the closest allies of the U.S. is quite remarkable. And now everybody's waiting to see what happens in the next 24 hours and whether or not the US will enter another regional conflict in the Middle East after saying that they don't want to be embroiled in conflicts, after mentioning that they want to pivot to the Indo-Pacific. Well, so much for that.
Well, Brian, I think we were both in Charlevoix in 2018 when the president made another dramatic departure from the G7 under very different circumstances. What do you make of that point that he felt the need to leave? I don't know if he needed to be in the Situation Room with his military advisors and all of the various paraphernalia a president has at their disposal in a facility like that they wouldn't have in Kananaskis. But what did you make of that decision to abruptly leave and go back to Washington at this moment?
A couple things. Clearly, what's going on in the Middle East, that's a very valid reason for the U.S. president to be in Washington with his senior military officials in order to handle that situation. That said, it is not unusual to see Donald Trump leave these international summits early. And I think in addition to the Middle East crisis, he probably had enough time with the other world leaders yesterday that he felt he didn't need a second day being talked at by them, particularly on trade issues. And further, it allowed him to avoid President Zelensky, which I think was something he wanted to avoid. So put all those together, I think it explains his early departure.
Yeah, the plausible theories there. Arif, I want to come to you for the last word. You talked about this could be the closest in 40 years to regime change in Iran. I know in our many conversations throughout the various conflicts over the past 18 months or so in the Middle East, it's always been about the widening conflict. But Hezbollah so degraded, Hamas so degraded, the Houthis limited, Syria under new management. The way Israel is striking Iran suggests a confidence that, not that it's consequence-free, but the consequences appear to be very limited, especially with the U.S. going in here. I mean, what does that tell us about the power dynamic at play there right now?
Well, look, I think none of the Gulf Arab states are friends of Iran, and Israel has certainly proven for the last 2 years that it can take on and fight its enemies. But I think what people in the region are asking is, can Israel actually work with its friends? Because it needs to do both. So it's not for tomorrow, but the other issue that many countries are taking away from this is the incredible exercise of power by Israel, and the response for some of them is going to be that we also have to build up our military.
Okay, look, we're going to let you go, but I want to thank you all. We covered a lot of ground on a lot of serious topics, and it's good to have smart, serious, experienced people with someone like me to be able to do that. So thank you. Vinay Jabula, Arif Fulani, and Brian Clough for guiding us through all of the developments here at the G7 in the Middle East and around the world. We appreciate your time. Great to be here.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, we're going to take a break. But coming up next on the show, we've got a panel of journalists who will join me to talk about the key moments from this summit and what we might expect to hear from Prime Minister Mark Carney later tonight. So stay right there. We've got that right ahead.
All right, fam, I think I'm gonna call it a day with the live. I want to thank you guys for all joining in. If you enjoyed the live, I really appreciate you guys. Let's go ahead and like, subscribe, and share the video. I do, if you watch the beginning of the live, sorry, I had my comments before, and we had great discussions in the chat, and we had a good time. And I normally do this once or twice, sometimes 3 times a week. I'm probably gonna come back again I might do another live tomorrow or Friday. I normally do them like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Tuesday, Thursday, depending on, my workload for school. So I'm always here. If you guys want to see my earlier rant that I went on, check the beginning of the live. I think it was a pretty good session today. I normally review firearms, and I talk about everything on my channel. It's just my channel. This is what I'm gonna. Since it's my channel, I just put whatever I want on it. But mostly, I like to see what's going on in my country and around the world. Mostly in the United States. With that said, guys, I appreciate every single one of you. If you guys got anything out of this live, if you made a new friend, if you got anything new from the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. And with that said, guys, may God bless every single one of you. May our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ reign over the entire world, reign over earth, reign over your life. And may God continue bless every single one of you. May God bless the United States. May God bless our president, and may God bless the Republic. I give praises, and I'm grateful to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ of Nazareth, and I thank Him for everything that I will receive, that I have received, be it good or bad. And again, with that said, guys, have a wonderful evening, man. Thank you, guys.